Because he loved a woman so deeply, the young man was deceived by his own girlfriend, who stole all of his money and the inheritance his parents had left him. This betrayal left him homeless, wandering without a roof over his head. What he never expected was that a global pandemic would break out, turning most of humanity into zombies and throwing the world into chaos. In such a time of disorder, the few survivors had to band together in order to fight off the flesh-eating zombies. Our main character, Jiang Xiao Yong, managed to join a group of friends, and they created a safe base to protect their lives. Who would have guessed that the cruel woman Kuai Jing, who was once his lover, would come searching for him, appearing as though she were in need, pretending to be a victim looking for refuge? She slowly took advantage of Jiang Xiao Yong's kindness, manipulating him and winning his sympathy. Once again, she played her dirty tricks, paving the way for her lover and his group to attack and overtake Jiang Xiao Yong's base. They murdered his teammates and ruthlessly tortured him until he died. No matter how heavy the rain, it must eventually stop. Jiang Xiao Yong was fortunate enough to be reborn 1 month before all the tragic events took place. Determined not to make the same mistakes, he vowed to take revenge on each person who had wronged him and to prepare for the looming zombie apocalypse. Hello everyone and welcome! Today we're doing a review of the novel Rebirth in the Apocalypse. I open chests to reach the peak. If you enjoy the video, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. We hope you have a great time watching. The story begins with our male protagonist, Jiang Xiaoyong, hanging by his wrists, tightly bound, high up in the air. Below him is a large iron cage filled with zombies waiting for him to fall so they can tear him apart. In front of him stands the vile woman who deceived him emotionally, now with her fat lover beside her. Behind them are the henchmen, big, muscular, and menacing. At that moment, Kuai Jing, who is below, looks up and calls out his name, Jiang Xiaoyong. Then, with cruel sarcasm, she taunts him about his companions. Your friends are all dead. Guess your life doesn't mean much now, does it? After taking over Jiang Xiaoyong's base, his team is beaten and left to struggle against the zombies. One of them gets their face completely torn off, while another has a chunk of their neck bitten out. A girl beside them is struck in the head and bleeds out, her tears still fresh in her eyes, never having the chance to dry. They all die without ever being able to close their eyes for the last time. Jiang Xiaoyong couldn't stop thinking about his two closest teammates. His jaw was tight and his heart heavy with frustration and guilt. Their deaths weighed on him, casualties of his misplaced trust in Kuai Jing yet again. This is all on me, he thought bitterly. I should have protected them. Suspended high above the ground, Jiang Xiaoyong could do nothing but struggle. His eyes locked on his former girlfriend, his voice hoarse as he shouted at his captors. You won't get away with this. One day you'll pay for everything you've done. It always seemed like the worst people managed to live without consequences. Kuai Jing and her partner stood side by side, apparently without a care in the world, as if preparing for a celebration. She leaned into her partner, smiling with false sweetness as she said, Look, he's still so worked up. Her partner chuckled, clearly amused. Don't worry, we'll make sure he regrets ever crossing you. They had taken all of Jiang Xiaoyong's gear and supplies. With a smug expression, the man looked down at him and said, Honestly, thanks. What you left behind should keep us going comfortably for a while. Then he reached for the control panel that operated the suspension system. With a mocking tone, he added, All right then, let's wrap this up. He pressed the button. The rope released and Jiang Xiaoyong fell, landing hard on the ground with a jarring impact. The pain was overwhelming, and before he could recover, a group of waiting zombies began to close in on him. Fresh human flesh was right in front of them, and they scrambled to get to Jiang Xiaoyong. They were all there, men and women alike, lunging toward him with their mouths wide open, their faces pale and their eyes completely white. The sight of them charging at him was utterly disgusting. Jiang Xiaoyong fell from a great height, pain shooting through him as he landed. He could only lie there, completely still. The zombies rushed toward him, pushing and shoving to bite his neck, his shoulders, his stomach. His hands were tightly bound, and the pain was unbearable. He gritted his teeth, fury rising up inside him as blood splattered from his mouth. His cries of anger and pain filled the air. In the midst of this unimaginable physical torment, as his body was being torn apart, he felt powerless. Only his consciousness remained intact. He was consumed with hatred. In the few moments between life and death, he gritted his teeth and swore, Kuai Jing, Lai Shuxiang, if I had a chance to be reborn, I'll make both of you pay for what you've done. Then everything went black. Jiang Xiaoyong was dead, and all that remained was darkness. But no, he wasn't dead. He still had one last chance, like waking up from a nightmare. He jolted awake, gasping for air, sweat pouring down his face. Before he could even process what had just happened, a loud voice shouted at his ear, Jiang Xiaoyong, what do you think you're doing? Perhaps his desire for revenge had touched the heavens. He was given a second chance. Jiang Xiaoyong was sitting on the couch in his apartment. In front of him, his girlfriend Kui Jing stood with her long, slender legs stretched out, her arms on her hips, angrily shouting at him. Why didn't you put my name on the house papers? Do you even love me? Just a short while ago, he had been bitten and torn apart by zombies, and now here he was sitting at home. Jiang Xiao Yong couldn't help but feel confused, a little lost inside. What is going on here? He sat in his own home, looking around in disbelief, still unable to accept that he was alive. He thought to himself, could it be that I really have been reborn? And maybe this is before the apocalypse even happened. Meanwhile, his girlfriend Kui Jing stood there, hands on her hips, glaring at him fiercely. What just happened to Jiang Xiao Yong felt like a dream. It was as if he had been given a glimpse into the future, knowing who would betray him and who truly cared for him. Thinking about all of this, he couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. Looking at his hands, still intact, he reminded himself that he couldn't afford to make any more mistakes. Once his thoughts settled, he managed to keep the truth about his rebirth from Kui Jing, who was lying to him. Jiang Xiao Yong stayed silent. He worked hard to keep his emotions in check as she continued to shout at him. The bride price is 100 million, not a penny less. Kui Jing, the main character's girlfriend, was beautiful, sure, but her character was awful. She only cared about taking and never about giving. Jiang Xiao Yong had probably been too easily manipulated in the past, so she stood before him with confidence, arms crossed, acting as if she were in charge, speaking to him with a tone of superiority. Do you understand? Watching this scene, Jiang Xiao Yong couldn't help but think, this wicked woman, sitting in front of the person who had once betrayed him, fully aware of their scheme, Jiang Xiao Yong felt powerless. But he told himself, I can't react right now. Kui Jing didn't stop. She raised her voice even more. I'll give you some time if you don't get the money. Hearing how ridiculous she sounded, Jiang Xiao Yong couldn't take it anymore. He interrupted her and found an excuse to kick her out. With a firm show, he pushed her outside and said, Fine, I get it. Just go already. This was the first time Kui Jing had ever been treated like this by him, and it made her question things. She turned around, clearly stunned, her expression tight with frustration and disbelief as her thoughts raced. What's going on? Since when did Jiang Xiao Yong become so capable? I always thought of him as someone who just followed me around. Inside the apartment, Jiang Xiao Yong calmly locked the door behind him. His hand lingered on the doorknob, and his face showed clear annoyance, as though he'd just shaken off something or someone unwelcome. For a moment, the room was quiet. Then, Jiang Xiao Yong glanced at the digital clock. It read, 5:00 p.m., July 5th, 2034. He thought to himself, just one more month. I need to get ready before everything begins. Suddenly, a faint metallic ting echoed nearby, snapping him to attention. He looked around sharply. A glowing system interface appeared before his eyes, hovering in midair. It displayed a new message. Apocalyptic system activated. New mission issued. Please complete the task promptly. Mission title, Prepare for the Apocalypse. Requirements, own one piece of land, 0 first. Stock supplies for over a year, 365th. Reward, 10 points. Note, points can be used in the system's shop to purchase survival items. Jiang Xiao Yong found himself suddenly reborn in the time just before the disaster struck, and on top of that, he was granted a post-apocalyptic system to help him face the upcoming zombie outbreak. Curious, he stared at the system interface in front of him, wondering aloud, I didn't expect there'd be a system. What are these mission points for? What can I do with them? Without thinking, he reached out and clicked on the system store. Instantly, the system display changed to a new screen. System store. Strengthening potion, +1, -20 points. Level 1 cultivator supply box, -2 points. Level 1 protagonist supply box, -10 points. Refresh button, -2 points. As he immersed himself in the system's interface, Jiang Xiao Yong suddenly remembered something important. His face turned serious. He quickly turned around to grab his phone, muttering to himself, I almost forgot. In my previous life, at this time, I was desperately trying to gather enough betrothal gifts for Kui Jing. I couldn't afford to spend a single penny, which left me malnourished. Finding his smartphone on the desk, he grabbed it right away. The first thing he did wasn't browsing the web, but opening a food delivery app. Holding the phone in his hand, he thought, just one more month and the world will be overrun with zombies. I should eat as much as I can while I still have the chance. A little while later, night had fallen, the city was lit up, and the delivery driver brought food to Jiang Xiao Yong's apartment in the high-rise building. The table was filled with a variety of delicious dishes, all famous and popular foods carefully arranged for him. Looking at the spread, Jiang Xiao Yong couldn't help but exclaim with joy, this is the legendary 3-star dish from the city's most famous restaurant. Do they usually serve it here? Knowing the tough times ahead, he thought, If disaster strikes and things get bad, I might even die. So why not splurge and enjoy some expensive food now? Well, I can. He picked up a piece of food, stared at the meat for a moment, and said, let me taste this $300,000 yuan scrambled eggs with tomatoes and see what it's like. He pocketed into his mouth, his lips pursing in pleasure as he savored the taste. At first, he was hesitant, but within seconds, it was like an explosion of flavor. It was so good that Jiang Xiao Yong felt a surge of energy tearing his shirt apart in sheer joy, overwhelmed by pure satisfaction after all the hard times he'd been through. Without hesitation, he slumped down into his chair, his mouth wide open, eating as fast as he could. He devoured one bite after another, his hands grabbing food nonstop. He ate like a tiger that had been starved for days. I was enjoying myself when suddenly the phone next to me rang loudly. Jiang Xiao Yong was still holding a crab leg in his hand. He glanced at the phone and noticed someone was calling. He picked it up and saw the caller's name. He thought to himself, is it that green tea sister again calling her older sister to cry? Although he didn't want to, Jiang Xiao Yong answered the call. As soon as he picked up, a woman's voice yelled into his ear, Jiang Xiao Yong, what do you think you're doing? How could you treat Kuai Jing like that? She was just expressing her feelings. You're so selfish, not even willing to share your wealth with her. What kind of love is that? The woman on the other end sounded so worked up that Jiang Xiao Yong's ears were ringing. He had to hold the phone away from his ear with one hand and grab a towel with the other, but it was still unbearable. And it wasn't over. She kept on shouting. Kuai Jing just disappeared to test you a little, and you couldn't even handle that. You'd better bring the house, the land, and $1 million to apologize. I'll help you convince Kuai Jing. Otherwise, get ready for a breakup. If this had happened before, Jiang Xiao Yong would have been frantic, trying to please Kuai Jing immediately. But after learning the truth about her and the people around her, he had changed. The words of the woman, Kuai Jing's friend, on the phone only made him even angrier. Without thinking, he shouted back into the phone, holding it close to his ear, his voice booming. What do you two want from me? Someone like her isn't even worthy of me. Get lost. After hearing Jiang Xiao Yong's firm response, the girl on the phone seemed momentarily lost for words. She hesitated, her voice faltering as she finally said, Jiang Xiao Yong, how could you? But his patience had already worn thin. The frustration he'd been bottling up finally boiled over. He dropped onto the sofa, his arms bracing him from behind as he leaned back, letting out a long, tired sigh. Right now, all his attention was locked on the pressing mission ahead, surviving the apocalypse. He stared up at the ceiling, his mind running through the possibilities. A piece of land. He imagined what he would need to do once he acquired it. It had to become a real stronghold, sturdy, secure, and ideally located near a water source and a forest. Every detail mattered. With a plan forming in his head, Jiang Xiao Yong didn't waste time. He headed straight to a real estate center. It was a modern, upscale building with a polished interior, professional staff, and a luxurious atmosphere. Surrounded by suits and sophistication, Jiang Xiao Yong, dressed in simple, functional clothes, stood out in sharp contrast, but he didn't mind. He wasn't here to impress, he was here to prepare. As soon as he entered the lobby, a staff member quickly greeted him. She was polite and promptly bowed, asking, hello, sir. Are you here to buy or rent a house? He paused for a few seconds, his hands stuffed in his pockets. Not wanting to keep her waiting, Jiang Xiao Yong smiled and responded cheerfully, neither actually. I'm here today too. Before he could finish his sentence, a man walked up behind the staff member and called out Xiao Ning. This man was Director Zhu, head of business operations at the real estate company. He had a serious expression on his face as he handed a task to the young woman, Xiao Ning. Xiao Ning, Director Zhu ordered, hurry and go to the back to help move the shelves. There's a lot of paperwork today. The girl, noticing the director, bowed and politely replied, sorry, Director Zhu, but I still need to attend to this customer. Director Zhu, clearly aware of that, still grabbed Xiao Ning by the shoulder and pushed her in another direction. His face showed irritation as he said, Xiao Ning, haven't you learned anything from what I've been teaching you these past few days? You have no awareness at all. Go work now. Can't you see this guy is dressed like he's broke? His comment implied that she, being new, should have recognized that Jiang Xiao Yong didn't look wealthy and shouldn't have been treated like a valued customer. Understanding what was being implied, Xiao Yong couldn't help but feel a bit upset. He really disliked people who were arrogant and obsessed with money. He clenched his fists, trying to hold back his frustration. The girl, Xiao Ning, felt embarrassed for missing the new customer. She turned around and said, but the manager shot a glare at Jiang Xiao Yong behind him, then spoke sarcastically. Can't you see? This guy is wearing rags. He probably can't even afford a bathroom. People like him aren't worth our time. Seeing her boss talk down to someone like that, Xiao Ning felt stuck and couldn't say anything. At that moment, Jiang Xiao Yong was at a loss for words too. but after a brief moment of surprise, he finally responded, "What do you mean by that? You think you're better than him just because of the way you look?" The man had no problem looking down on others, but when someone dared to challenge him, his face twisted with anger. He turned fully towards Jiang Xiao Yong, acting smug as he spoke, laughing mockingly. "So what if I'm the kind of person who looks down on a ragged dog like you? Just because I have a bit of success doesn't mean I need to care about anyone else. I only pay attention to appearances." He wasn't finished yet. He continued with a smug tone. "If you're so confident, I'll make a deal with you. If you could even buy a bathroom like the one I eat in, I'll eat shit in front of you." When Jiang Xiao Yong heard this, it was clear he had something in mind. He stared at the man, not saying a word, his expression full of hidden meaning. The director, who had foolishly made an offhand vow, didn't realize it, but Jiang Xiao Yong was waiting for this moment. He wasted no time and quickly delivered a sharp response, catching the director off guard. Standing in front of the director and the employee, Xiao Ning, Jiang Xiao Yong fixed a cold stare on the man. His brows furrowed as he spoke with confidence. "All right, this is what you said. Just wait. I'll find something for you that's hot and smells awful." No one really knew how much money Jiang Xiao Yong had except for him. With an air of self-assurance, he pulled a black card from his pocket between two fingers, and holding it triumphantly, he calmly said, "Miss, I didn't come here to rent land or property today." Then, deliberately emphasizing his words, he added clearly and loudly, "I came here to buy land." As he spoke, Jiang Xiao Yong pointed the black card directly at the arrogant director. At first, when the director saw Jiang Xiao Yong looking so ordinary, he had sneered. But now, seeing the situation unfold, he was shocked and uneasy, sweat starting to bead on his forehead. Xiao Ning, the employee, was also taken aback by what she saw. Seeing that things were taking an interesting turn, more people gathered around the three of them. When the crowd saw the card in Jiang Xiao Yong's hand, they were all shocked by him. Everyone stood there, mouths agape. The man in front of him couldn't believe it and shouted, "What? Buying land? Am I hearing this right? Does he know how much land costs?" The person behind him frowned and sighed. "I've lived through over 30 springs, and I've never seen anyone buy land with a black card." Then the crowd started whispering excitedly, "A rich guy. This is what a real big shot looks like. Xiao Ning is so lucky. This guest she's been so enthusiastic about welcoming turns out to be a young heir from a wealthy family." The young woman quickly bent down and gestured for Jiang Xiao Yong to come inside, saying, "Yes, yes, please, sir, follow me. I'll give you a full tour." Jiang Xiao Yong swiftly followed the directions of Xiao Ning, the employee. She was very polite and warmly welcoming, leaving the angry manager standing there behind them. He glared at Jiang Xiao Yong through gritted teeth, looking incredibly upset, and deliberately raised his voice so Jiang Xiao Yong could hear. "Oh, so you're showing off now? When it's time to pay, I don't believe you'll actually have the money." Ha! Both of them went to the private reception area reserved for high-profile clients. Jiang Xiao Yong was seated at a separate VIP table. The employee, Xiao Ning, respectfully handed Jiang Xiao Yong a set of documents about some of the plots of land the company currently had available. She said, "These are some of the properties we own. Please take a look at them briefly, and I'll provide more details afterward." As the paper was handed closer to him, Jiang Xiao Yong waved his hand dismissively. He was straightforward by nature and didn't like to beat around the bush. He only wanted what he needed. With great seriousness, he said to Xiao Ning, "There's no need to waste so much time and effort. Let me tell you what I'm looking for, and you can see if you have it." Hearing this, Xiao Ning responded, "Sir, please go ahead. This land purchase was to prepare for the coming disaster." Jiang Xiao Yong had in mind the conditions necessary for survival during a potential epidemic. He stroked his chin and thought for a moment before saying, "It needs to be surrounded by mountains and rivers with the best water sources, flowing water, convenient road access. It would be even better if there were a building like a factory or something bigger there." These conditions were unusual for a typical land buyer, especially in this day and age. Xiao Ning was taken aback. She hesitated for a moment, holding the stack of documents to her chest, and replied, "Oh, let me think about that." At that moment, the manager entered the room with an unpleasant expression on his face. Hearing the conditions coming straight from Jiang Xiao Yong's mouth, he quickly interrupted the conversation between the two and spoke up, "Isn't the land on the west side of the city exactly what he's asking for?" Upon hearing the director's voice, the employee Xiao Ning suddenly turned around and responded, "Ah, director, yes, the area on the west side of the city." Because she genuinely cared about her work, the young woman immediately reminded her boss, "Director Zhu, are you talking about the tea capital land? That area won't work. There are still many factories under construction there, and the issues haven't been resolved yet. We can't sell it to any customers right now." It was clear that the man knew that land shouldn't be sold, yet he deliberately brought it up to Xiao Yang. His intentions were far from good. With a cold, ruthless expression, he looked down at Xiao Yang from his high position and sneered, "Oh, sell! What are we even selling? People like him, poor as they are now, have all these strange demands. He didn't come here to buy anything. He's just here to cause trouble." Jiang Xiao Yong ignored the rude comments from the jerk and calmly asked Xiao Ning about the land, since he'd heard that the land met his requirements. "Is the land in the West District really able to meet all my needs?" The girl hesitated a bit before quickly replying, "Yes, but there's one issue. The roofs above the factory are really run down and messy. The team leader of the construction crew has already disappeared." He quickly grabbed the stack of documents, flipped to the page with a photo of the land, and examined it. As Jiang Xiaoyong read carefully, he thought to himself, "Oh, the location is perfect. It totally matches everything I need. The barbed wire fence is sturdy, easy to defend, but hard to attack. And the unfinished state of the factory is actually a plus. It'll save me a lot of money and construction time." Seeing that this piece of land was truly a perfect fit for him, Jiang Xiaoyong quickly handed the document back to the employee, Xiao Ning, and said, "I don't want this land. We can proceed with the payment and contract right." It was hard to imagine how Jiang Xiaoyong could agree to buy such a barren piece of land, especially with so many disadvantages. Xiao Ning, caught off guard, instinctively bowed to take the document and quickly said, "Sorry, sir, sorry, but something doesn't seem right." Our cute Xiao Ning had misunderstood. She froze, her eyes wide, clearly confused. Then, as if to confirm, she let out an "oh." The girl, looking flustered, bowed again, her face full of embarrassment as she carefully asked Jiang Xiaoyang, "Sir, are you sure you want to buy this unfinished factory site?" Without hesitation, Jiang Xiaoyang responded, not missing the chance to take a jab at the director Zhu, who was awkwardly standing behind them. "Oh, of course. Let's get the contract signed and the payment done quickly. Someone's waiting to deal with the mess later after all." Hearing this, Director Zhu was speechless. He could only stand there, grinding his teeth in anger, his face showing clear disdain. Today has truly been a disastrous day for Director Zhu. He carelessly recommended a barren plot of land to Xiaoyang, hoping to force him out. But to his surprise, Xiaoyang found it perfect and decided to buy it, putting himself in a tough spot. Holding the receipt in his hand, Director Zhu was so worked up that he shouted, "No, no way. This can't be happening." Just a moment ago, he had been arrogantly looking down on others, but now he was paying a price for his actions. His earlier boast about eating dirt if Xiaoyang had enough money to buy the land had now become a major problem for him. Sweating profusely, Director Zhu panicked and yelled, "What? This is 300 million. This is a 300 million advance, and someone actually has enough money to spend that on a plot of land for a factory that's still under construction. I can't believe it. I can't believe it." Seeing the frustrated expression on Director Zhu's face, Jiang Xiaoyang stood up, walked over to him, and patted him on the shoulder. With a dangerous glint in his eyes, he leaned in close and, grinning slightly, said, "Hey, my friend, I already paid. Now it's your turn to perform. As long as you eat well, I'll make sure to give you a rocket when the time comes." Time to teach him a lesson in humility. Director Zhu stood there like a stone, his face pale and drenched in sweat. Jiang Xiaoyang didn't care at all about what would happen next. He walked away first. His colleagues had been watching the whole scene unfold and were just waiting for Xiaoyang to finalize the deal so they could pull out their phones and live stream the director eating shit. The person holding the phone quickly ran up and said, "Hey, buddy, I've set up the live stream for you. Go ahead and do it now." His colleagues were equally eager. A man behind them ran over and, with a grin, added, "Hey, big guy, my stomach's not feeling too great today, but I guarantee you I'll save the best stuff for you." The director didn't expect them to actually follow through, thinking it was all just talk. But when they started getting serious, he pulled his arm back in resistance. The person with the phone held it up close to Director Zhu's face and said cheerfully, "Hey, big guy, want some lobster? I had some last night, and I'm sure there's still a bit of meat left inside." Having completed a task in this post-apocalyptic world, a notification appeared in front of the male protagonist. The system displayed a reminder. The mission, titled "Prepare for Natural Disaster," required him to own a piece of land and stock up on supplies for the entire year. Points earned could be exchanged for rewards in the system's shopping center. Wandering alone in the lobby, heading outside, Jiang Xiaoyang stuffed his hands into his jacket pockets. As he walked, he was deep in thought, focused on figuring out how much money he would need to stock up on food supplies for the coming crisis. The money he had used for the dowry had already gone toward buying land. Now, he needed to find a way to earn a little more to build up his food reserves. Lost in thought, working for the task the system had given him, Xiaoyang didn't notice a man in a white vest bump into him. This man, none other than Lai Shuxiang, was currently Xiao Yong's lover, the person he was secretly seeing. Lai Shuxiang recognized Jiang Xiao Yong. He turned to watch as Xiao Yong walked past, his mind racing. Oh, is that Jiang Xiao Yong? What's he doing here? But without giving it much thought, he quickly turned his attention back to the direction he had been heading, into the lobby. Suddenly, Lai Shuxiang froze in shock when he saw. The scene showed Director Zhu surrounded by a group of employees from the company. One of them held a strange object up to his mouth, while another grabbed his chin to force his mouth open, making it easier to insert it. Director Zhu was held tightly in place, and someone above him was recording the whole thing on their phone, live streaming the chaotic scene in this otherwise upscale setting. Seeing this, Lai Shuxiang shouted, "What the hell are you people doing here?" The scene then shifted to Kui Jing's house. The woman looked incredibly seductive, wearing tight shorts that barely covered her, long fishnet stockings, and a deep-cut top that revealed her ample chest. She sat alone, enjoying her cigarette in a carefree, almost rebellious way. Her phone on the table suddenly rang. It was an unknown number. She quickly answered with a flirtatious tone. "Lai Shuxiang, you're still thinking about others?" Before she could say anything more, the voice on the other end was that of the heaviside Lai Shuxiang, who yelled into the phone, telling her about Xiao Yong's actions. Kuai Jing, Jiang Xiao Yong, went to the real estate company today to buy land. Did you know about this? As soon as she heard about the money for buying land, Kuai Jing immediately stood up. She slammed her hand hard on the vanity, making a loud noise, and then suddenly lost her composure, exclaiming, "What? He's buying land? Where did he get the money to do that?" Lai Shuxiang quickly provided more details from the other end of the line. "The advance is 100 million. I think that's the money he saved up to use as your dowry." Upon hearing this, she lost all sense of shame and shouted into the phone. Her face looked as if she had just been robbed of her fortune, and she yelled, "What? That bastard? How dare he spend my money?" As soon as she heard that Xiao Yong was using her money, she automatically assumed it was hers. Her mindset could really use a feminist crash course to clear things up. Lai Shuxiang tried to calm her down and advised her on what to do next. "Kuai Jing, first, don't get too angry. Go find Jiang Xiao Yong and ask him what exactly is going on." At this point, the money that was supposed to be her wedding dowry had been spent, and Kui Jing had completely lost it. She furiously shouted at Lai Shuxiang, swearing as if that money was rightfully hers. "What's there to ask? That bastard? He dared take my money. Today, I'm going to make him famous on the internet, no matter what." At another scene, back at Jiang Xiao Yong's house, he had been lost in thought for a while, still trying to figure out the task ahead of him. He had already spent all the money he had saved for his wedding to Kui Jing, and now he had to dip into his savings for the land deposit. Right now, Jiang Xiao Yong desperately needed a large sum of money to buy materials for building the base within the next year. Sitting on the sofa with his chin resting in his hand, he tried to focus, thinking about the financial situation, buying supplies, and building the base, as all of it required a lot of money. Where the heck am I going to get the money from? He wondered to himself. Just then, his concentration was broken by loud knocking at the door. Jiang Xiao Yong glanced over his shoulder, muttering under his breath, "Dan, what's with the banging?" He reluctantly got up to answer the door. It turned out the noise was caused by his girlfriend, Kuai Jing, and her close friend. Seeing the two of them looking rushed at his door, Jiang Xiao Yong asked, "What are you two doing here?" Without wasting any time, Kuai Jing shot him an angry glare. Standing with her legs spread apart in a confrontational stance, her face twisted with frustration, she squinted her eyes and then shouted loudly at Jiang Xiao Yong, "Jiang Xiao Yong, what the hell do you think you're doing? How dare you spend my money?" Her friend behind her also looked serious and chimed in, supporting Kuai Jing. Hearing such harsh words from this crazy woman, Jiang Xiao Yong immediately thought to himself, is she just naturally stupid, or is she really trying to act this way? Jiang Xiao Yong was no longer as soft and knave as before. He was genuinely fed up with her behavior. His face twisted in anger, clearly showing his frustration as he snapped back. "Ha, what are you even talking about?" Looking back, it was clear that Jiang Xiao Yong had once been knave, but not anymore. At that moment, Kui Jing didn't hold back at all. She pointed her finger right in Jiang Xiao Yong's face and shouted loudly, as if she were the queen of the world. "Don't think I don't know you used my wedding gift money to buy land. Let me tell you, that money is mine, and if you used it to buy land, then that land belongs to me." This woman was truly delusional. Where did she even come up with this rule? Jiang Xiao Yong was completely speechless at Kui Jing's shamelessness. He looked at her with disgust and sneered, saying, "You're really a piece of work." Then he pulled out a thick stack of money and slapped it onto Kui Jing's greedy shoulder. He yelled, "Let me tell you something. I've got money." Jiang Xiao Yong then stared her straight in the eye and finished with a cutting remark, making sure the clueless girl understood her place. But even a single penny, I wouldn't give you. Staring at the pile of cash on her shoulder, Kuai Jing was stunned. She was speechless, frozen in place like she had been paralyzed. Jiang Xiao Yong kept going, speaking frankly. Don't think I don't know what you and that guy, Lai Shuxiang, have been secretly doing behind my back. At this moment, Kuai Jing finally realized the change in her boyfriend. Yet she had no idea what it felt like to feel guilty towards someone else. Her face was turning purple with anger, and her eyes were wide open, glaring at Xiao Yang. In her mind, she thought, what's going on? How could he possibly know about my affair with Lai Shuxiang? Seeing that things were getting tense, for the first time, Jiang Xiaoyong was genuinely angry at Kuai Jing. Her friend, who had been standing by, quickly stepped in to try to calm things down. Haha, both of you, just relax. It's just a little argument, a misunderstanding, she said, trying to ease the tension. Kuai Jing couldn't say anything. She just stood there fuming. Jiang Xiaoyong didn't want to get tangled up in their drama any longer. He grabbed the door handle, clearly frustrated, and with an angry expression, he shouted, misunderstanding. What nonsense. There's no misunderstanding. She and Lai Shuxiang are a perfect match. Now, get out of here. Then Jiang Xiaoyong, the main character, slammed the door in front of the shameless Kuai Jing. Before closing it, he threw one last insult at her. Just get out. I'm so tired of seeing you two. As for Kuai Jing, she was completely confused, but not because she had lost her boyfriend. She was confused because she couldn't understand how he knew about her affair. She thought to herself, how could he know? I've always been so careful in booking the rooms. After the tense confrontation, the two girls, known for their carefree attitudes, reluctantly pressed the elevator button and prepared to head back. They waited silently in front of the elevator. It was obvious that Kuai Jing was feeling down. Her close friend gently took her hand and asked, Kuai Jing, why didn't you tell me something this important? Are you really that close to Lai Shuxiang? Kuai Jing, clearly emotionally exhausted, crossed her arms and looked down. After a pause, she admitted softly, well, we've met up a few times in private. Hearing this, her friend sighed and rubbed her forehead, clearly stressed. With a resigned tone, she said, this isn't going to be easy. Let's go back first and figure out our next move. Kuai Jing nodded, not sure what else to say. Yeah, I guess that's the best we can do right now. A little while later, the elevator arrived and the door opened. Both of them stepped inside together. At that moment, the friend standing behind Kuai Jing revealed her true nature. With a cunning look, she stared at Kuai Jing's back and thought to herself, Kuai Jing, if you've already started trouble with Jiang Xiaoyong, I won't hold back anymore. Who said we were good friends, huh? She secretly chuckled. This girl had had her eyes on Jiang Xiaoyong for a long time, but Kuai Jing had been in the way. Now, seeing that the two of them were having issues, she planned to take advantage of the situation to win Jiang Xiaoyong's favor. After dealing with the two troublesome women, Jiang Xiaoyong headed to the piece of land he had just bought to check on the progress of the construction of the workshop that had been left unfinished. He asked the project manager, I need to renovate this workshop. How long do you think it will take to finish? Jiang Xiaoyong and contractor Lai went over the construction plans. Contractor Lai started listing out the tasks, rebuilding the walls, constructing a watchtower, installing Texas steel mesh, adding thick steel doors for reinforcement, and using bulletproof glass. After finishing his list, contractor Lai set the plans aside and casually asked Jiang Xiaoyong, can I ask you something? Do you upset someone powerful? Xiaoyong squinted his eyes, clearly uninterested in answering the contractor's questions. He spoke with a dangerous tone. Don't ask too many questions. Knowing too much isn't good for you. If we finish in a month, how much will it cost? Just tell me. When Xiaoyong gave him a 1-month deadline, contractor Lai jumped in surprise. He quickly replied, a month isn't enough, sir. Xiaoyong's voice grew sharper as he pressed him. Just say it. If you can't handle it, your whole company will be in trouble. Seeing the unreasonable demand Xiaoyong was making, contractor Lai sighed in frustration. Oh my god, my whole company needs to survive too. Xiaoyong wasn't backing down. He retorted, oh, you're a soft-hearted boss, aren't you? Feeling awkward, the contractor admitted what he needed. With a nervous smile, he stammered, that's not what I meant, boss. What I meant was, we need more money. Money can solve everything, right? Xiaoyong, clearly frustrated, coldly asked, how much? Contractor Lai hesitated and held up 2 fingers, saying, boss, if we have to finish in a month, I'll need to push my whole company to work at full intensity. At the very least, we'll need this much. Seeing the contractor's cautious look, Xiaoyong guessed 2 billion. Contractor Lai nodded, then added, yes, but we'll need at least 500 million up front to even keep the company running. Agreeing to the contractor's terms, Jiang Xiaoyong crossed his arms and replied, all right, I'll send the money within a week. You can start the construction now. Hearing that the payment would come later, the contractor seemed a bit uneasy. He quickly interjected, but understanding the contractor's concerns, Jiang Xiao Yong patted him on the shoulder and said a few reassuring words to put his mind at ease. "Don't worry, I won't run off with your money. If I don't pay you, you can take the land." Another classic promise from Jiang Xiao Yong. The contractor hesitated for a moment, but faced with such a big client, he reluctantly agreed. All right then, everything's settled. Somehow, Kuai Jing's best friend found out where Xiao Yong had bought land. She showed up next to him, happily skipping over and calling out, "Mr. Jiang." Hearing the familiar voice, Jiang Xiao Yong turned around. Unexpectedly, she grabbed his arm, intentionally making it brush against her chest as she cheerfully asked him questions with a bright smile. Xiao Yong was caught off guard by this and quickly pulled his arm away, but she held onto it firmly, not letting go. Kuai Jing's friend, guided by a kind of unexplainable intuition, like a mysterious 13th zodiac sense, walked up without a trace of shame. Without hesitation, she clung to Jiang Xiao Yong's arm and said in a playful tone, "Hey, fancy seeing you here." She leaned her head lightly against his shoulder, which only irritated him further. Looking at her smiling face and how casually she latched onto him, Jiang Xiao Yong felt his anger simmering. Unbelievable, he thought. In my past life, Kuai Jing took everything from my family, and you were right there with her. This time, I won't forget. This time, I'll settle the score with interest. Despite his frustration, he kept his voice calm. "What are you doing here?" Ignoring his question completely, she kept up her cheerful energy, her eyes lighting up as she changed the subject. "Oh wow, is this the land you just bought? The view is amazing. You're planning to build a big villa here, right?" Her overly sweet tone grated on him, especially coming from someone he didn't trust in the slightest. Jiang Xiao Yong angrily swiped his hand away, stepping back sharply to put some distance between himself and the woman. He shot her a cold, piercing glance and said bluntly, as if throwing water in her face, "What I do has nothing to do with you, right?" Kuai Jing's close friend was stunned by Jiang Xiao Yong's attitude. He walked away, deliberately avoiding her. Jiang Xiao Yong was fully focused on the construction work at the site, paying no attention to the shameless woman standing in the corner, gritting her teeth in anger. She couldn't stop wondering about his behavior. What's going on? Why is that useless Jiang Xiao Yong acting so strange today? Normally, he'd be blushing and his heart would be pounding whenever I touched him. But today, when I tried to get close to him, he didn't react at all. Later, Jiang Xiao Yong saw two people measuring something and quickly ran over, pointing at them. "No, that's wrong. The door has to be at least half a meter wider." Ignoring the shameless woman behind him, she hesitantly called out to him, "Hey, Jiang, this girl really has no sense of shame. Kuai Jing is 49 and she's only a 500. She doesn't want to work hard and just relies on her looks to seduce men. She's so devious, clenching her fists, determined to snatch Jiang Xiao Yong away from Kuai Jing and claim this piece of land for herself. I can't miss this opportunity. Kuai Jing and that guy aren't getting along anymore, so if I take down Kuai Jing now, this land will be mine." After finishing up at the construction site, Jiang Xiao Yong returned to his apartment and sat down on the familiar sofa. He seemed incredibly busy with the land project, ignoring everything and everyone around him. His eyes focused on the two red land certificates on the table as he began to think deeply. "I mortgaged this house to the bank for $300 million, but that's still not enough to cover the initial phase of the project. I need to find a way to make more money." He placed his hand on one of the certificates, pausing for a long time as he thought it over, then suddenly had an epiphany. That's right. The apocalypse is coming soon, so what does it matter if I sell this house over and over again to different people? It's a win-win, and no one gets hurt. After all, when the apocalypse comes, they won't need the money. I'll just take it now, like an advance. Jiang Xiao Yong pressed his lips together and made a decision in his mind. I'll just handle it like this. He had just solved one problem when another one came up. A man outside his door started banging loudly, yelling nonstop. "Open the door! Open the door now!" Jiang Xiao Yong, sitting down, turned his head toward the door and muttered in frustration, "Damn, who's the crazy person bothering me now?" At that moment, he realized it was probably the same old neighbor who was always causing trouble. Jiang Xiao Yong walked to the door. As he turned the doorknob to open it, he thought to himself, "It's probably Mr. Lai, the neighbor from downstairs. No one else would be this annoying. That guy has a lot of money. He's already bought the first and second floors, and now he's trying to stir up trouble, so I'll sell him the third floor too. But I had planned to keep this room as a honeymoon suite, so I'm not selling it to him. And now that old man is causing even more trouble, spilling paint on my door, dumping garbage, putting wreaths up. He's using every dirty trick in the book to mess with me." As soon as I'd opened the door, an old man appeared, hunched over with silvering hair. He was wearing a simple, worn-out coat, and he looked incredibly stingy and petty. Without hesitation, he shouted at Jiang Xiao Yong, "You were jumping around again last night, weren't you?" Jiang Xiao Yong couldn't take it anymore. He quickly snapped back, his tone firmer than before, while his hand still held the door tightly. Have you finished making noise? I went to bed before 10 p.m. last night. What chumping are you talking about? The old man wasn't backing down. He puffed himself up and yelled even louder than Xiao Yong. His mouth opened wide as he said, I don't care. I clearly heard it. Not wanting to argue any further, Jiang Xiao Yong waved his hand dismissively and turned his face away, clearly fed up with the old man. He also happened to be looking to sell his house, so he added, All right, enough. Don't you want my house? Fine, I've had enough. I'll sell it to you. The old man froze for a few seconds, still in disbelief that Xiao Yong was willing to sell the house to him just like that. The old man lies, surprised, asked again, Are you serious? He seemed much more energized now. Jiang Xiao Yong stood with his arms crossed in front of the old man, speaking slowly, But I have one condition. Old man Lai furrowed his brow and squinted as he asked, What condition? Feeling confident with the upper hand, Jiang Xiao Yong laid out his terms. I won't get the new apartment for another 6 months. I'll need to stay here for at least that long. Before that, you need to pay me a lump sum of $500 million when you buy this house. Also, you need to let me pay off the mortgage on the new place. Old man Lai hesitated. Well, before the old man could think it over or negotiate, Jiang Xiao Yong pulled the door shut. He closed his eyes and said, If you don't agree, then forget it. Seeing Jiang Xiao Yong about to close the door, old man Lai froze for a moment. He quickly stuck his head in for the crack in the door, holding it open with his hand, and peered up at Jiang Xiao Yong. He quickly agreed. He said, We'll just need to make a contract to avoid any issues later. Jiang Xiao Yong, having reeled in the big fish, still kept his cool. He said, A contract is fine. Don't worry about it. At that moment, deep down, Xiao Yong was quietly celebrating. He glanced over at the shady old man, lied, and thought to himself, Ha ha ha. This Dan old man, just wait there for your downfall. A little while later, just as agreed, the old man Lai quickly transferred the money to buy the entire house for Xiao Yong. Xiao Yong checked his phone and looked at the balance, then thought, I already received $500 million from Lai, plus the $300 million loan. That makes a total of $800 million. The system notification popped up, announcing the task, mission requirement. Own a completed plot of land, prepare materials for the entire year 0365th. Task reward, 10 points. Points can be exchanged for rewards in the central shopping system. Jiang Xiao Yong clicked the accept button, but couldn't proceed since the task wasn't completed yet. He thought to himself, I should finish the system tasks first and then collect the rewards. The scene shifted to the largest shopping mall in the city, which looked incredibly grand and modern. With his pockets full of cash and his determination at its peak, Jiang Xiao Yong was ready to tackle his next mission, gathering enough food and supplies to last an entire year. He navigated the supermarket aisles with purpose, pushing his cart swiftly as the system interface flashed a reminder remaining days to prepare 365th. His fast-paced, large-scale shopping quickly drew attention. People nearby began to whisper, puzzled by his unusual urgency. A man leaned toward the woman beside him and murmured, That guy's really going all in. The woman, dressed in brown, glanced over cautiously. Yeah, maybe we should just steer clear. The sounds of clattering carts echoed through the store as Jiang Xiao Yong continued to stack essentials into multiple carts. Before long, he had filled over 10 carts, prompting even more curious stares. The same couple watched as he paused to wipe the sweat from his brow, clearly worn out from the intense effort. The woman found herself wondering, why is he buying so much? What's he preparing for? Her companion, with a smirk, shook his head. Probably one of those guys who take survival prep way too seriously. He chuckled quietly, thinking Jiang Xiao Yong was going overboard. But at that very moment, a notification appeared in Jiang Xiao Yong's vision. Mission complete. Supplies secured for 365 days. System points plus 10. His total now stood at 10 points. His first real milestone in preparing for what was to come. Jiang Xiao Yong had just earned 10 system points, so he immediately went to the system store interface to look for support items. He spotted something that seemed perfect for him and thought it over. Oh, enhancing attributes is crucial to the apocalypse, and this character upgrade box costs exactly 10 points. It feels like a reasonable and worthwhile choice. This time, it makes sense, so I'll just go for it. No more hesitation. The first thing I need to do is expand my advantages right away. I need to be decisive. I'll choose the character upgrade box. Without a second thought, he confidently clicked on the character upgrade box option. Instantly, the system notified him that the exchange was successful and 10 points had been deducted. Its point balance was now 0. A rectangular chest appeared before him. The outside of the chest was decorated with glowing magical symbols in the shape of question marks, and at the top was the symbol of an infinity sign. The supply box opened. Inside the box was a titanium ring with a large purple-tinted diamond set on top of it. At the same time, a description of the ring appeared on the notification. Space Ring, Level 1. Features: it has a separate 500 square meter space inside. Time flows normally outside but stops inside the ring. Jiang Xiao Yong stretched out both hands towards the glowing ring. It floated gently between his palms, shining brightly, revealing his mesmerized expression. His eyes widened in amazement, and his mouth instinctively dropped open. "Ha! I knew it," he said with a proud grin. "I was sure the first draw would get me something amazing like this, definitely gold." He continued to stare at the ring, a smile still on his face as he thought to himself. "So time stops in this space. That means even if I store fresh food in here, it won't spoil. This is perfect." After enjoying the reward from his first mission, Jiang Xiao Yong didn't have to wait long before the system issued a new task. New mission: 10 years of prosperity, 10 years of supplies, no less than 10. Reward: 20 points. Suddenly, a loud voice shouted from somewhere, "Who's there?" The man, walking and shouting at the same time, called out, "Who dares to come here and cause trouble?" He was bold and hard to ignore. Behind him, 2 security guards followed closely. The man wearing a suit clearly held some sort of position in the shopping center. The man in the suit with the square face approached closer. As soon as he saw Xiao Yong, he was taken aback and asked, "Are you Jiang Xiao Yong?" It seemed like this man knew Jiang Xiao Yong from before, but he didn't ease up on his stern expression. Jiang Xiao Yong, too, recognized him. He looked at him and asked in return, "Yang Dao, is that you?" The two knew each other, but their encounter wasn't exactly a happy one. Jiang Xiao Yong's face showed he wasn't too thrilled to see him. It turns out, Yang Dao used to be a classmate of the male lead, and they had some bad blood between them from the past. Jiang Xiao Yong thought to himself as he sized up Yang Dao. Yang Dao had been a classmate of his back in middle school, and he was nothing more than a lackey for that jerk Jiang. He was only good at bullying the weak, but he was terrified of the strong. Jiang Xiao Yong remembered those days when Yang Dao and his gang would block his path and demand protection money. Back then, Yang Dao showed no respect for anyone. Though they were the same age, he always acted like he was in charge. He even made up a rule for Xiao Yong, saying, "Last week's protection money was 10 yuan. Hand it over." At that time, Jiang Xiao Yong wasn't afraid. He stood his ground and retorted to the rowdy group of students, "Hand over my ass. If you want it, go get it from Zhang Cheng." Jiang Xiao Yong kept thinking back to those days of constant clashes with Yang Dao during school. He never expected to run into him here. Without missing a beat, Yang Dao pointed straight at Jiang Xiao Yong's face and shouted aggressively, "Jiang Xiao Yong, what do you think you're doing? Put everything back in its place right now. If not, don't blame me for being rude." Yang Dao, seeing that Jiang Xiao Yong was just an ordinary person who bought a lot of things, immediately assumed he was there to cause trouble. On top of that, their past conflicts made him even bolder and more arrogant. Jiang Xiao Yong, however, knew exactly what Yang Dao was like, so he remained calm. He calmly responded, then lowered his face and said, "Ha ha, Yang Dao, are you still trying to act tough with me? I came here to shop. Is this how your supermarket treats customers?" Jiang Xiao Yong stood among a mess of shopping carts, glaring as if daring anyone to challenge him. Yang Dao heard what Xiao Yong said, but instead of backing off, he got even more aggressive. Not only did he get louder, but he also taunted Xiao Yong. "Shop, huh?" He kept pointing his finger in a way that was incredibly rude to a customer. "Then go ahead and pay for these things for me. If you don't blame us for getting rough." It was hard to believe how Yang Dao's shady tactics were actually working in such a big shopping center. An hour later, Jiang Xiao Yong's endless shopping receipt finally printed out. The supermarket had to call in 4 cashiers to handle his checkout. Yang Dao stood by, watching the entire time. He stepped up to the cashier and quickly asked, "How much is it in total?" The cashier looked at the receipt in her hands, clearly frustrated. She wiped the sweat off her forehead and answered, "It's 56,243,000 dong." Holding a card reader in his hand, Yang Dao rudely pointed straight at Jiang Xiao Yong and shouted, "Pay up." There's a saying that poor people like to show off. Xiao Yong felt that Yang Dao was completely out of line, but he stayed silent. He then pulled out his legendary black card. With a sharp swipe, Jiang Xiao Yong swiped his card decisively, his actions full of confidence. His gaze alone spoke volumes, showing all the anger he'd been holding in up until that moment. Immediately, the payment machine beeped, signaling a successful transaction. Staring at the screen in disbelief, Yang Dao gaped, grinding his teeth as he muttered, "Did the transfer really go through?" He grunted in frustration, but said nothing else. Without another word, he turned to leave, signaling to his 2 bodyguards to follow him. We're leaving. But Jiang Xiao Yong wasn't about to let him slip away that easily. Fuming, he shouted, Yang Dao, stop right there. To his surprise, Yang Dao turned back around, his fists clenched in anger. Jiang Xiao Yong, however, remained calm and composed. With a smirk, he repeated Yang Dao's rude behavior. You had a terrible attitude earlier. You owe me an apology. If not, I'll return all these goods. Yang Dao, still being unreasonable, refused to back down. Even though he was clearly in the wrong, he continued to argue. His face twisted with frustration as he yelled. There are a lot of people here in the shopping center. Don't push it. You're still trying to cause trouble for me, aren't you? It was Yang Dao who was being unreasonable, yet he was the one acting like the victim. It was almost like a thief shouting at the police. Many people shopping around also witnessed what had been happening. Seeing the unfairness, a beautiful young woman who had been eavesdropping on the situation couldn't hold back and shouted at Yang Dao to defend Xiao Yang. You're the one being a jerk and disrespecting others. Weren't you rude to him just now? All he needs is an apology from you. That's not asking too much. A tall, handsome guy standing nearby also agreed with the woman and added, yeah, apologize quickly. If not, we won't buy anything either. Fortunately for Jiang Xiao Yong, a YouTube influencer who had been filming the whole situation on his phone spoke up, warning Yang Dao, I got everything on tape. Apologize right now, or I'll make sure the whole country knows what you've done. The situation shifted and all the support and advantage turned to Jiang Xiao Yong. He stayed calm and composed, confidently reminding Yang Dao, just apologize. If you do it sincerely, I'll buy 10 times more from here. Yang Dao, hearing this, stiffened his neck and retorted, stop talking nonsense. Jiang Xiao Yong, on the other hand, pulled out his powerful black card, smiling proudly as he spoke and laughed loudly. Talking nonsense? Fine, bring over the card reader, and I'll show you my balance. When Yang Dao saw the black color of the card, he immediately felt a pang of unease. He handed the card reader to Xiao Yang, who swiftly swiped it again to check the balance. With a smooth, confident motion, Xiao Yang swiped it, like someone used to handling large sums of money. Yang Dao, holding the card reader, felt completely lost. His eyes widened, unable to believe what he was seeing. He gasped loudly. The balance on the screen, what, over 7 billion? Standing before the person he'd been challenging for so long was none other than the billionaire Jiang Xiao Yong. At that moment, Jiang Xiao Yong's expression turned serious. He opened his mouth, speaking with a tone of disdain. Apologize and I'll keep buying after that. If I'm lying, then I'll be your grandson. Inside, Jiang Xiao Yong felt truly satisfied. His words stung Yang Dao, both humiliating and cutting deep. The man's appearance was indeed like that of an older uncle to the protagonist. Under the pressure of money, Yang Dao broke out in a cold sweat. He was left speechless as anger simmered. This was a lesson he wouldn't forget, one about the consequences of trying to bully someone stronger. After a moment of hesitation, he finally gave in. He pressed both hands to his body, bowed at a 90-degree angle, and apologized to Xiao Yang. Looking utterly miserable, he forced down his shame as Yang Dao said loudly, I'm sorry. Was that apology enough to make up for his earlier arrogant attitude? Jiang Xiao Yong stepped closer, placed a hand on his head, and gently petted him like one would a dog. With a cheerful tone, he advised, just remember, don't take risks like that again, okay? Yang Dao's face twisted with restraint, looking like a tightly bound sack of rice. He was no different now than he used to be, flattering the rich and bullying the weak. Seeing that Jiang Xiao Yong was walking away without saying anything more, he quickly lifted his head, changed his expression, and asked Xiao Yang politely, So, Mr. Jiang, why do you want to buy so many things? Jiang Xiao Yang, visibly annoyed, didn't even glance at him as he answered, That's none of your business. I have my own business to take care of. Quick to switch gears, Yang Dao suddenly broke into a warm, friendly smile, his eyes squinting from the brightness of it. The bossy tone he had before was gone, replaced by a softer, lighter voice. A big business, huh? The small supermarket still has too few items. Do you want to find more? Hearing this, Jiang Xiao Yang turned around and looked at Yang Dao, asking, You've been around this supermarket for years, you must know where to find it, right? Yang Dao quickly replied, Of course I do. Do you remember Zhang Chengji? He's the one handling this stock now. Just seconds later, Yang Dao quickly dialed Zhang Chengji's number. He sounded thrilled, almost desperate, as he spoke. Hello, Xia. I got a big client for you. Jiang Xiao Yang stood with his arms crossed, waiting without showing any emotion. He was deep in thought. As expected, Yang Dao was still acting like Zhang Chengji's lapdog. Jiang Xiao Yang couldn't help but wonder how much shady money these two had made from this Hoa Runfa supermarket. Not long after, Jiang Xiao Yong and Yang Dao were standing outside the warehouse waiting for Jiang Chengzhi. Yang Dao was busy talking about the products inside and giving details about the location, not noticing a car speeding toward them from the side. The black car came so fast, it looked like it was aiming to cause an accident, and it came to a sudden stop just inches away from Yang Dao. He jumped back in shock, flailing his arms around in panic. Jiang Xiaoyong, on the other hand, remained calm. Despite the unexpected situation, he stood still with his arms crossed, not showing the slightest hint of fear. Jiang Xiaoyong stood calmly staring at the driver with a mix of frustration and disbelief. Inside his head, he thought, damn, driving like that, it's like I'm being blackmailed. The person who stepped out of the expensive car was Jiang Chengzhi, wearing a knee-length trench coat. He looked arrogant, closing the car door with one hand while holding a cigar in the other. He tilted his head back, blowing out a long puff of smoke. Even though they were about the same age, he looked like one of those older guys in their 50s. After finishing his puff, he quickly walked over to Yang Dao and asked hurriedly, Yang Dao, is this the distinguished guest you were talking about? Yang Dao eagerly replied to Jiang Chengzhi, hey Jiang, this is Jiang Xiaoyong. Do you remember him? Meanwhile, Xiaoyong was still standing with his hands in his pockets, waiting to see what would happen next. He hadn't caught all of what they said, and while still puffing on his nearly burnt cigarette, he looked at Jiang Xiaoyong and asked, who? Yang Dao cheerfully leaned in and reintroduced them. Jiang Xiaoyong, our high school classmate. Hearing that name, Jiang Chengzhi instantly brought back memories. The bustling atmosphere seemed to quiet down for a moment. He took a long drag from his cigarette and growled in a low voice, I remember now. Running into someone he had once bullied, Jiang Chengzhi was even more arrogant now than he had been before. At first, he exhaled a thick cloud of smoke directly into Jiang Xiaoyong's face. The look in Jiang Xiaoyong's eyes was full of hostility, sharp enough to cut through Jiang Chengzhi. Jiang Chengzhi hadn't changed one bit since they were younger. He was still the same, arrogant, looking down on others, using his strength to bully the weak, greedy, and cruel. He acted like he owned the world. He kept the cigarette hanging from his mouth, shoved his hands into his jacket pockets, and lifted his smug face. With an air of superiority, he said to Jiang Xiaoyong, oh, it's you the stubborn one? Jiang Chengzhi stepped closer to Jiang Xiaoyong, grabbed the drawstring of his hoodie, and inspected it, eyeing it with disdain. Then he mocked, a knockoff brand? Ah ha ha, you just keep making me lose respect for you. You don't have any money and still try to show off. Jiang Xiaoyong was insulted, but he didn't lose his composure. He was just a little irritated. He gave a stern reply. Jiang Chengzhi, as for the brand, I don't know. I just happened to buy it from a street vendor. Jiang Chengzhi furrowed his brows, then turned to grab Yang Dao by the head. His fingers dug in hard as he shoved Yang Dao roughly to the side, almost causing him to fall. Jiang Chengzhi was so angry that his muscles tensed and he nearly killed Yang Dao in the process. Is this the big client you were talking about? Dan, you're wasting my time. Before Yang Dao could say anything, he just closed his eyes and braced himself for the storm of anger coming his way. To Jiang Chengzhi, Yang Dao was nothing more than a dog. Nothing more, nothing less. Once the anger subsided, Jiang Chengzhi kicked Yang Dao hard in the back, making him stumble. While he was staggering, Yang Dao quickly tried to explain. Mr. Jiang, he really is a big client. Jiang Chengzhi still didn't believe him. He shouted even louder. A big client, my ass? I've been in this business for years and I can tell at a glance who has money and who doesn't. Jiang Xiaoyong watched the two idiots struggling, staying silent until they were done. Then he spoke up. Looks like my aura isn't strong enough. He then lowered his head, his face turning colder, and continued, laughing mockingly while adding a final insult. Even a dumbass who looks down on others with his dog eyes can't be intimidated, huh? In a fit of rage, Jiang Chengzhi couldn't take it anymore when he heard Jiang Xiaoyong's words. Without a second thought, he spun around, grabbed Xiaoyong by the collar, and shoved his face up close to his. Through clenched teeth, Jiang Chengzhi growled, Jiang Xiaoyong, what did you just say? Despite the intense pressure from Jiang Chengzhi, the main character remained unfazed like a block of wood. He smiled faintly, his eyes locking onto Jiang Chengzhi's face, and slowly said each word clearly. I said, do you have the eyes of a dog? You can't even see who's standing in front of you. With a cigarette dangling from his mouth, Jiang Chengzhi still managed to hold his tense stance. His face was tight with anger, yet he snapped back at Jiang Xiaoyong. You dare call me illiterate? Jiang Xiaoyong, however, wasn't backing down. He kept pushing, his expression acting all clueless. So instead, should I just say you have the eyes of a dog and look down on others? How about that? The tension was rising, and it looked like this deal was about to fall apart. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, Yang Dao quickly stepped in to mediate. He awkwardly waved his hands at both of them and said, "Mr. Jiang, don't poke at Jiang's sore spot. He really is illiterate, and he hates being reminded of it." Yang Dao's words were nothing short of disastrous. After finishing his words, Jiang Chengji kicked him, sending him flying to the left. The wound that Jiang Chengji had gotten from Jiang Xiao Yong's earlier stab already hurt, and now, with Yang Dao adding more insult to injury, it was unbearable. Jiang Chengji still held onto Jiang Xiao Yong's shirt collar, glaring at Yang Dao as he shouted, "Damn it, you idiot! If you can't say anything useful, shut up." Right after that, Jiang Chengji's thug-like behavior came out. He yanked Jiang Xiao Yong's shirt collar harder and stared him down, saying, "A big customer hot. If you don't take a whole truckload of goods from me today, you and Yang Dao won't be walking out of here in one piece." He pulled out his phone. Jiang Xiao Yong told him, "Stop pulling on my collar. Just give me your account number." Thinking that Xiao Yong was someone hard to deal with, Jiang Chengji was caught off guard when Xiao Yong asked for his account number. Still holding onto his collar, he froze for a moment. Jiang Xiao Yong wasn't buying from him out of fear. There was just 1 month left before the pandemic hit, and he really needed the supplies. A few minutes later, Jiang Chengji's phone beeped, showing the transfer of 100 million yuan from Xiao Yong. He held the phone up close to his eyes to double-check and then blurted out, 100 million? You want to buy this much? Is this for real? Jiang Xiao Yong quickly responded, "Enough talking. If I wasn't serious, do you think I'd bother showing up to deal with you? That's the deposit for a 500 million yuan order. Get the goods loaded onto the truck, and you'll get the remaining 400 million once everything's delivered." Whenever there was money involved, Jiang Chengji would stop grabbing Jiang Xiao Yong's collar. He suddenly became much more serious. "What kind of goods do you want?" Jiang Xiao Yong stood there with his arms crossed. He listed off everything Jiang Chengji needed to hear: firewood, rice, oil, drinks, and a bunch of other random stuff. Just pick up the easy-to-eat and drink stuff. Don't bother with the rest, and remember to check everything. Hearing that, Jiang Chengji understood Xiao Yong's meaning and replied, "Got it, follow me." At that moment, the player who had been cheating couldn't help but think to himself, "I can't believe how lucky I am. I just got a batch of food that's about to expire, and now someone's coming to take it off my hands." Once everything was settled, Jiang Chengji, of course, led Jiang Xiao Yong and Yang Dao to the warehouse. It was a huge place, and the amount of goods stored in it was massive. Jiang Chengji, with a slight grin, began to make his pitch to get Xiao Yong to pay full price for the soon-to-expire goods. "If you pay for everything in full, I'll give you a 10% discount." What do you think compared to the original wholesale price? Knowing full well that this guy wasn't trustworthy, Jiang Xiao Yong wasn't impressed by the discount. He walked over to a few bags of rice and with a cold tone responded, "What I think depends on the quality of your goods." Both Yang Dao and Jiang Chengji froze, watching Xiao Yong's every move in disbelief. Jiang Xiao Yong picked up a bag of rice and immediately seemed to notice something was off. He stayed silent for a while, studying it carefully. Then he lifted the bag high so Jiang Chengji could see it clearly. Jiang Xiao Yong exposed the man's trick. Aside from the outer packaging, everything inside was filled with food that was about to expire. He gave Jiang Chengji a pointed look and couldn't resist making a jab. "Jiang Chengji, looks like your little calculation was off." Jiang Chengji, hearing this, thought to himself, "Damn, I didn't expect this guy to actually be pretty sharp." Then he lowered his voice and said to Xiao Yong, "Well, if you're willing to pay for all this food that's about to expire, I'll give you a 50% discount. How does that sound?" He thought for sure Jiang Xiao Yong would back out of the deal, but instead, Jiang Xiao Yong came up with a new proposal. "As for your soon-to-expire food, I have another arrangement in mind." Jiang Chengji was taken aback and asked, his face showing confusion. "An arrangement? What do you mean?" Jiang Xiao Yong turned around, firm in his negotiation. "According to the discount you just mentioned, you should knock 50% off and I'll pay for all this food that's about to expire. But there's one condition." Jiang Xiao Yong gripped the bag of rice tightly and concluded, "After 1 month, I'll settle a full payment, but I'll have to deal with all this nearly expired food myself." When Jiang Xiao Yong agreed to buy the batch of goods, even though he knew it was close to expiration, Jiang Chengji was overjoyed and quickly asked him again to be sure. "Really? Are you sure? What if the goods expire and you don't give me the money? What am I supposed to do then?" With a calm and confident tone, Jiang Xiao Yong replied, "Don't worry. By then, I'll hand over my house to you." Jiang Chengji was still cautious, so he pressed further. "You still want the food even though you know it's almost expired. Can you tell me what your selling channels are?" Jiang Xiao Yong responded with complete confidence. "Channels? What do you mean channels? I have a channel, all right. He patted Jiang Xiao on the shoulder and leaned in, speaking quietly to point out the situation. Haha, especially with food that's about to expire. Even if it is close to the expiration date, in just a few days, it's basically just trash anyway. Struck at a vulnerable spot, Jiang Xiao's face turned pale and sweat poured down his face. With his usual greed, making a decision on this deal was really tough for him. He answered nervously. Whoa, what do you mean by that? Seizing the opportunity to pressure him, Jiang Xiao Yong acted quickly. He took out his phone to check the time and said, There are some things you don't need to ask. Just hand over the goods. I need them urgently. I've already sent you the address. The phone rang. Jiang Xiao Yong picked it up, and right away, a man's voice came through the line. Is this Mr. Jiang? Jiang Xiao Yong, a bit confused, responded. Who is this? The man asked again. Are you the one selling the old house? Just a moment ago, he had promised Jiang Xiao that if the food payment wasn't made, he'd hand over his house. Jiang Xiao Yong's mind was quick as usual. He intentionally cut the man off, saying, I have other things to take care of. As for the food, just follow what I told you. With that, he waved his hand, acting like there were many suppliers relying on him before leaving on his own. Yang Dao and Jiang Qiangji stayed behind in the warehouse, watching Jiang Xiaoyong's figure disappear into the distance. Yang Dao nervously leaned in and asked Jiang Qiangji, Brother Jiang, I'm not fooling you, am I? Jiang Qiangji, puzzled, muttered to himself, Damn it, this kid is clearly from an ordinary family. How the hell is he getting so rich so fast? After leaving Jiang Qiangji's place, Jiang Xiaoyong headed to another property to meet a different client. The man pulled out a thick wad of cash from his wallet, showing it off. This new client was an older man. He was dressed simply, and his hair and beard were already turning gray, giving him a kind, gentle look. The man handed the money to Jiang Xiaoyong and said straightforwardly, I'm okay with your terms of leaving the house after 3 months. All right, let's sign the contract first. Standing before the elderly man, Jiang Xiaoyong didn't know what to say at first. He became quiet and then thought for a moment. The old man hadn't even bothered to properly inspect the house before putting down a deposit and signing the contract. He must really be eager to buy this place. Not quite understanding the man's intentions, Jiang Xiaoyong asked right away, Sir, do you really need this house so urgently? The old man, looking very kind, raised his eyes to meet Jiang Xiaoyong's and honestly explained, I have nothing to hide from you. My granddaughter is about to transfer to a different school in Shanshan, so we really need this house quickly to settle down. I've looked around the area a few times, but yours is the only one up for sale. Sir, please don't change your mind later, okay? The elderly man's pitiful look and sincerity made Jiang Xiaoyong soften. He smiled gently and replied, Sir, you're being too honest. You shouldn't have told me all that from the start. Aren't you worried I might raise the price? Hearing Jiang Xiaoyong mention the price increase, the old man suddenly realized he had been too careless. His face turned pale with fear, and he quickly pleaded with Jiang Xiaoyong. Mr. Jiang, the money for this house is all the savings my granddaughter and I have. Please don't make me worry even more. Jiang Xiaoyong cut him off, holding the home sale contract in his hand and reassured the old man. Don't worry, sir, I won't regret this. A moment later, Jiang Xiaoyong signed the contract. Holding the paper, the old man's face lit up with joy. No longer looking fearful, his eyes brightened, and with a big smile, he exclaimed, Ha, that's great. That's really great. Once Jiang Xiaoyong finished signing, the old man didn't want to linger. He quickly packed up his things, slung his cloth bag over his shoulder, then bowed respectfully to Jiang Xiaoyong before leaving, saying, Mr. Jiang, I'm sure you have a lot to do, so I don't keep you any longer. Xiaoyong stood before him and gently replied, Yes. As the old man turned to leave, Jiang Xiaoyong stood lost in thought, unknowingly reflecting. The lower class was so kind and simple-hearted, but with the future ahead, he feared that both he and his granddaughter might not even survive the first month. The old man had only taken a few steps when Xiaoyong reached out and called him back. Wait a minute, hold on for a second. Hearing the call, the old man turned around and asked, Yes, what's the matter, sir? Jiang Xiaoyong's question was simple. The address where you're living now, please tell me. After this question, it became clear that our protagonist would be able to save the old man and his granddaughter when disaster struck. Perhaps he felt guilty for deceiving honest people out of their money. This was his way of paying back their debts, repaying the debt to their lives. With that, the house sale was now partially settled. Jiang Xiaoyong turned back to focus on Shanshan, managing his land project, and wandered over to the construction site to check on the progress. The contractor was thrilled to see him and greeted him warmly, respectfully guiding him through the site. The two walked leisurely side by side. Seizing the moment, the contractor stepped a little closer and brought up the money issue. Mr. Jiang about that second deposit. Sensing the contractor's intention, Jiang Xiao Yong didn't let him beat around the bush. He glanced around, then said, "I'll transfer it to you later, but how's the progress on the construction?" As they talked, they reached the factory entrance. The contractor pointed to the ceiling above the door and said, "It's 80% finished now. Look at this, walls, doors, ceiling, and all those other things, they're all completely safe and reliable." Jiang Xiaoyang looked up in the direction the contractor indicated. Seeing that everything seemed to be in order, he asked, "What about the warehouse?" The contractor continued enthusiastically, "The warehouse is part of the pre-built section of the factory that hasn't been fully finished yet, but it's been cleaned up and is ready to be used anytime." Jiang Xiaoyang nodded approvingly. "Good job." The contractor, seeing his praise, couldn't hide his joy. He looked at Jiang Xiaoyang with a bright smile. In return, Jiang Xiaoyang quickly took out his phone and dialed Jiang Chengji's number. "Jiang Chengji, bring out the goods now." Just a few hours later, the warehouse at the factory was buzzing with activity. Workers were busy loading items onto tall shelves that reached over 10 meters high. They excitedly chatted with each other. "Take it easy. The boss is really generous." One worker cheered, "This small job is paying us 2 million each. This guy is great." Another worker remarked, "This place looks like a little hideaway." A third worker replied, "What do you know? With a job like this, the high pay is only right. When you have money, who wouldn't want to protect their life?" Jiang Xiaoyang held the inventory sheet, observing everyone as they worked and guiding the workers to place things exactly where he wanted. He pointed in a different direction and said to a worker pushing a cart of fresh vegetables, "Fresh products, like vegetables and fruits, need to be stored in a separate area. Don't mix them up, okay?" The worker smiled and responded cheerfully, "God, boss, don't worry." The entire afternoon passed in a flurry of activity, and by late into the night, the workshop was still brightly lit. Everything had been neatly organized, and the workers, though tired, left the workshop with smiles on their faces, clearly satisfied after receiving a generous bonus. At this point, only Jiang Xiaoyang remained in the warehouse. He stood there, arms crossed, filled with pride as he looked at the results of his hard work over the past few days. Ever since his rebirth, Jiang Xiaoyang had truly felt more at ease. He was visibly happy, and with a sense of accomplishment, said aloud to the system, "Completed." The system immediately displayed a notification. Tasked 10 years of food and warmth completed. 20 system points awarded. Current points, 20. After receiving his score, Jiang Xiaoyang immediately entered the system store. He looked at the new chest with a bit of surprise. He couldn't help but murmur, "Oh, there's actually a new chest in this system." System store tasks. Physical enhancement potion +1 -20 points. Level 1 post-apocalypse farmer supply box -2 points. Level 1 superpower awakening supply box -10 points. Manual refresh 2 points. After reading through the system store list, Jiang Xiaoyang thought to himself, "I'm really lucky. I managed to get the superpower before the apocalypse hits." So Jiang Xiaoyang chose the level 1 superpower awakening supply box from the system's auctions. A new notification appeared. Successful exchanged, 10 points deducted, 10 points remaining. The points notification faded and the superpower card appeared on the system board. It was a card shaped like a mysterious eye. The card read, Spiritual Eye Level 1. Ability to detect whether the opponent is an enemy. Reading the content on the card, Jiang Xiaoyang smiled brightly and said aloud, "So I can detect hostility, huh? Ha ha! This could be one of the most useful abilities during the early days of the apocalypse." Since Jiang Xiaoyang had completed his task, the system sent him a new mission. The new mission, titled Fully Equipped, required him to arm himself. The progress was at 0% and the mission reward was 10 points, plus a random bonus. Ready for a new mission, Jiang Xiaoyang's face lit up with excitement. He pulled up his hood and tilted his head, grinning mysteriously. "Ha ha! Isn't this exactly what I was just thinking about?" The scene shifted to a night market, a place where rare and unusual items were traded, most of which had been stolen and sold to middlemen. Many people came here to buy and resell in hopes of making a profit. The market was crowded and noisy tonight, buzzing with activity. Jiang Xiaoyang had left the warehouse on his newly purchased land and came here to take a quick stroll. Most of the traders here were rough around the edges and didn't mind breaking the law, so Jiang Xiaoyang had to be cautious while moving through the market. Around him, the air was filled with the voices of people, mostly questions filled with suspicion. "Dan, are you telling the truth or just messing with me?" A real pro would have already given it away the moment they spoke. "Is the price you're offering legend or fake?" "Damn this thing." Someone muttered softly, realizing that the item they were selling was stolen. "Hey, quiet down. I dug this up from the Ma family tomb just yesterday. One person shouted in amazement, "Oh, this is the skull of a Ming Dynasty king, right?" As Jiang Xiao Yong walked past a stall, he heard a familiar voice. The person was bargaining, saying, "Give me a better price, just 3 million." The stall owner responded, "No, no, no. There's no way I can sell it for that price." As Jiang Xiaoliang walked by, he glanced toward the voice. Sure enough, it was someone he recognized. The voice belonged to Lai Shuxian. He was standing there, arms crossed, fully engaged in a heated argument with the stall owner. His face was tight like a drawn bowstring as he shouted, "This jade bracelet is being sold for 200,000. It's obviously a fake. If you sell it to me for 100,000, you'll still make a nice profit. So, are you selling it or not? If not, I'll go somewhere else." The stall owner, seeing that Lai Shuxian was being so aggressive, quickly lowered his voice and tried to calm him down, saying, all right, just calm down. I'll sell it to you tonight." After overhearing their conversation, Jiang Xiaoyang thought to himself, what a scumbag, Lai Shuxian. He's come all the way to the black market to buy a fake jade bracelet. That's when he realized that Lai Shuxian was just pretending to be rich in order to trick the shameless woman, Kuai Jing. Jiang Xiaoyang couldn't help but feel a little triumphant. Ha! Kuai Jing, you fool. You actually let yourself get scammed by someone like him. There was a sharp metallic sound as a knife thudded down between two other knives. Though they looked different in design, all three were dangerous weapons. The noise caught Jiang Xiaoyang's attention. He stood in the middle of the street, spotting a small stall selling knives by the sidewalk. A few passersby stopped to glance at the display, but didn't buy anything. Jiang Xiaoyang smiled slightly, feeling satisfied when he found what he was looking for. "I found it," he muttered with quiet excitement. He quickly walked over to the knife stand, picked up a knife that fit his hand, and examined it closely. He looked up at the vendor and asked, "Hey, do you have anything more durable?" The vendor, a tall and tough-looking young man, ran his business with a no-nonsense attitude. He casually pointed to a sharpening stone beneath the display and said, sounding indifferent, "That's a sharpening stone. If you want something tougher, buy that and sharpen it yourself. If you're not interested, just go buy a stick to play with." Suddenly, Jiang Xiaoyang frowned. He spoke with annoyance, his voice tight. "That's still not tough enough. I want something even stronger." Sensing Xiaoyang's bad mood, the vendor's temper flared. His face tightened, his thick eyebrows lowered, and he shot Xiaoyang a suspicious look, his voice growing sharp. "What do you mean? Are you here to cause trouble?" Surprised yet, old man, the shopkeeper's phone buzzed with a notification showing that his account had received 20 million. He stared at the screen, confused, not knowing who had sent the money. It turned out to be Jiang Xiaoyang, who had just been putting on an act a moment ago, looking all serious and dangerous. Little did the shopkeeper know, Jiang had already transferred the money through the QR code at the bottom of the screen. Jiang Xiaoyang proudly handed over the successful transaction receipt and said with a smile, "Don't get too excited. This is just me showing my sincerity to buy." The shopkeeper was left stunned like a cow wearing a hat. Quickly, he turned to Shan Shang, a man sitting nearby playing a game on his phone, and urgently called out, "Xiao Can, come over and watch the shop." The guy, still distracted by his gain, hadn't fully grasped what had just happened. After receiving the money, the shopkeeper's attitude changed completely. He was suddenly much friendlier, even changing the way he addressed Jiang. He spoke in a softer, more careful tone, saying, "It's not convenient to talk here. Please follow me. I'll show you a better place to discuss." They walked for a while, and the shopkeeper led Jiang Xiaoyang down a narrow alley to a house hidden away inside. Once inside, the shopkeeper's face lit up with a wide grin. He squinted his eyes, handed Jiang a box, and inside was a pistol. "Boss," he said, "we've got a homemade handgun here. It could easily take down a chicken. Ammo is cheap, just some gunpowder and steel balls. What do you think?" Jiang Xiaoyang put his hands in his pockets, stared at the gun for a moment, then coldly replied, "No deal." The shop owner could immediately sense that this customer might be a bit particular. He paused for a moment, his face thoughtful, then introduced another item from his collection. He said, "This is a replica model, styled like a classic revolver. Its design closely matches the one you're familiar with. It's priced at 5 million, and the compatible accessories are available for 50,000 each. What do you think?" Jiang Xiaoyang looked at the item, folded his arms thoughtfully, his face cast in shadow, so his eyes seemed deep and unreadable. He responded, "Not bad, but I already gave you 20 million earlier. Offering me this now, don't you think that feels a bit off?" Earlier, Xiaoyang had transferred 20 million, expecting options that matched a higher standard. What he really needed was something more refined and high-end. The shop owner blinked in surprise. "Paid in advance? What do you mean?" he asked, puzzled. Jiang Xiaoyang's expression sharpened. He locked eyes with the owner and said in a steady, serious tone, "That was a 10% deposit. I'm planning to spend 200 million here. I need options that reflect that. Hearing these words and seeing Jiang Xiao Yong's demeanor, the shopkeeper was so convinced that he must be some kind of big shot that he nearly had a panic attack. He pointed at himself, chuckled awkwardly, and then asked Jiang Xiao Yong again, still not fully believing what he was hearing. This big brother here, what exactly are you planning to do? For an order of this level, you're coming all the way here to see me in person? You've already acted like a big boss. So what's next? Jiang Xiaoyong quickly came up with a vague excuse to cover up any potential slip-up. He closed his eyes and spoke casually. I never used to care about small matters like this. These things are always handled by my underlings, but lately, things have been happening. Anyway, don't ask too many questions. Just tell me, can you do it or not? The shopkeeper seemed relieved, as if he had found a lifeline. He quickly rushed out the door, turning back to say to Jiang Xiaoyong, please wait a moment. Jiang Xiaoyong stood still, silently agreeing to wait. The shopkeeper locked all the doors in the room, including the windows. He pressed himself against the wall, slightly pulled back the curtain, and peeked outside to make sure no one suspicious was around. Xiaoyong noticed his careful movements and from the way he handled business involving high-value items, recognized that the man was quite professional. Then the shopkeeper shifted into a more serious tone. He lowered his voice and said to Jiang Xiaoyong, you came to the right person. He stepped closer to Jiang Xiaoyong, leaned in and whispered softly, covering his mouth with his hand, I can do this for you. Just write down the list and I'll wait for the address later. At 12 o'clock the day after tomorrow, you can drive over and we'll finish the deal. Jiang Xiaoyong, being very cooperative, paid close attention to what the shopkeeper said, thinking that Jiang Xiaoyong must be a big boss. The shopkeeper saw Jiang Xiaoyong off with a serious attitude. He walked ahead, carefully pointing in the direction and even reminded him, boss, watch your step. As soon as Jiang Xiaoyong stepped out of the room, a familiar voice called out, oh, so it's Jiang Xiaoyong? Jiang Xiaoyong glanced over at Shan Shang to see who it was and almost immediately guessed it was Lai Shuxiang, who, after completing his business at the market, had coincidentally run into Jiang Xiaoyong on his way out. Lai Shuxiang looked intrigued and spoke in a mocking tone. So, you really are here at the black market. I've got a question. Why have you been so generous lately? He also brought up Kui Jing, his face almost accusing as he said, and you're just ignoring Kui Jing? Looks like you've still got some family treasures hidden away, huh? Even worse, the man walked closer to Xiaoyong and stuck his stubbled face right near him. Xiaoyong responded, what's up? I've noticed you've been buying and selling a lot recently. Do you really need to copy others, lying down and selling everything just to live comfortably? Seeing that the man was arrogant and overly talkative, Jiang Xiaoyong had been getting annoyed for a while but still chose to remain silent, refusing to respond. Jiang Xiaoyong suddenly remembered that he had just unlocked his superpower in this system. A smirk played on his lips as he glanced sharply at Lai Shuxiang. He thought to himself, that's right. Let's see what this new superpower can do. Jiang Xiaoyong activated his superpower, Spiritual Eye. One of his eyes lit up with a soft green glow, making both the iris and pupil shimmer faintly. He turned to glance behind him, where the weapon shop owner was standing. With this ability, Jiang Xiaoyong could now sense the emotions of the people nearby. Above the shop owner's head floated a cheerful green smiling face, while above Lai Shuxiang's head hovered a stormy purple frown, pulsing with irritation. So it really works. The superpower is active, he thought. Then he turned back to Lai Shuxiang and finally responded. He pointed at the item Lai had just picked up and said with a teasing tone, really? That's what you went with? And just curious, who exactly are you again? Oh, that's right. You're the one always tagging along with Kui Jing. Seems like you've been getting her attention with these kinds of outdated collectibles. Well, I suppose that's your style. As for her, let's just say our history is complicated. Lai Shuxiang, clearly angered by Jiang Xiaoyong's words, clenched his bag tightly, his jaw tensed. The emoji above his head shifted from purple to a fiery red, pulsing faster with every passing second. His body stiffened, and then he yelled. What did you just say? The weapon shop owner saw the tense situation and approached Jiang Xiaoyong, asking him, boss, is this person someone you know? Jiang Xiaoyong coldly turned his face away, looking in a different direction as he responded, oh, do you know him? More like he's a tail that follows me around. Fortunately for the shop owner, since he was taking care of a VIP guest, he had already called over a group of big, strong underlings to protect his client. He gently spoke to Jiang Xiaoyong, saying, I understand, boss. If you're busy, go ahead. I'll take care of teaching him a lesson. Jiang Xiaoyong quickly walked away, but not before turning around to remind them, don't kill him though. His life is mine to take. The four underlings who had been called over all looked fierce and ready to go, just waiting for the order to take down Lai Shuxiang. Once Jiang Xiao Yong was completely out of sight, the shop owner led his four underlings and they slowly advanced toward Lai Shuxiang. They didn't say a word, their faces full of menace, cracking their knuckles and getting ready to throw punches. Lai Shuxiang, scared, started backing away. He was no longer acting tough like before. Step by step, he stumbled backward, yelling in an attempt to threaten them, but his words didn't hold much weight against their intimidating presence. What do you think you're doing? Let me tell you I can. The shopkeeper grabbed a short stick and with a quick flick of his wrist, it extended into a long steel whip. He tightened his grip on the whip and brought it close to Lai Shuxiang. At that moment, Lai Shuxiang, no longer as defiant, seemed to realize that his strength was no match for these people. Terrified, he waved his hand and stammered, No, big brother. Let's talk this over slowly. Just seconds later, the chubby man suddenly collapsed, hitting the ground with a thud. He fell face first, shouting, "Ah!" No one around him helped. They just gathered to watch as he was humiliated. An hour later, Lai Shuxiang's face and body were covered in marks from boots. He had endured a brutal beating, so painful that he had to crawl across the ground, his face twisted in anger. He slammed his fist on the ground in frustration, cursing under his breath, "Jiang Xiao Yong, you bastard, just wait for me." 2 days later, at the factory on the newly purchased land of Jiang Xiao Yong, night had fallen. Jiang Xiao Yong stood behind an open cargo container, staring thoughtfully at a pile of goods. A system notification popped up, mission fully completed. System points plus 10, current points 20. It seemed that Jiang Xiao Yong's black market deal had gone smoothly. He looked at the 8K rifles and long-range guns piled up in front of him, along with dozens of rounds of ammunition. It seemed that his success had far exceeded his expectations. At that moment, the system displayed a new notification. Received additional reward, Physical Enhancement Medicine Plus. He held a syringe in both hands, a gift item from the system, which glowed and lit up half of his face. Jiang Xiao Yong stared at it in awe. "Oh, I actually got a vial of physical enhancement medicine." He gripped the syringe, which was as big as his hand, raised it high, and said excitedly, "And it's a +2. Compared to the medicine in the market, this is such a bargain." Rolling up his sleeves, Jiang Xiao Yong was filled with determination. He extended his left arm forward and with his right hand, lifted the large syringe, ready to inject the strength-boosting medicine. Jiang Xiao Yong gritted his teeth, enduring the pain as the power surged into his body. His eyes burned with intensity and the energy felt like it was ready to burst out. His whole body tense, struggling through the intense sensation. 1 minute after the injection, his strength had directly increased by 2 points. Jiang Xiao Yong clenched his fist and stared at his hand. He thought to himself, the average physical strength of an adult man is 5, and with these 2 extra points, I've gained about 40% more strength. After some quick calculations, Jiang Xiao Yong summoned the system's shop, which displayed the following. The shopping center system for stamina-enhancing drugs +1 -20 provides level 1 zombie apocalypse farmer box points -2 points, manual refresh -2 points. Our Jiang Xiao Yong is determined to add another stamina-enhancing drug. This time, Jiang Xiao Yong was really serious. Holding a new syringe in his hand, he gripped it tightly. With this advantage, I need to level up to the maximum. Once he was done, Jiang Xiao Yong's body was practically radiating with fiery energy. He stood there, tensing up, struggling to control the intense power coursing through him, thinking to himself, with 8 points of stamina, I'm over 60% stronger than the average person. I should try finding a target and see how this goes. He looked to the left and noticed a few steel bars leaning against the wall. A smile spread across his face as he recognized an opportunity. Oh, there's something. Quickly grabbing one of the steel bars, he stared at it with full concentration. He was ready. Jiang Xiao Yong kicked the bar hard in the middle and shouted. One strong hit and it bent. The steel bar flew straight into the wall with a loud crash. Even more impressive, it bent significantly and cracked a piece of the wall. Ha! As expected, with my current strength, I can handle this with just my bare hands. No one else can compare. Seeing how much stronger he had become, he confidently assessed his own abilities. Even if I had to face the early-stage zombies of the apocalypse, I wouldn't be afraid at all. Once Jiang Xiao Yong had completely absorbed the energy, he quickly returned to normal. He tightened his grip on his fist, raised it in front of him, and examined it carefully. Then, looking at the pile of weapons on the large truck, he thought to himself, these weapons probably don't take up much space, so it would be safer to store them in the space pocket. He then extended his hand with a ring on it. Immediately, the crates of various weapons were sucked into the ring, just a few centimeters above Jiang Xiao Yong's hand. In an instant, the entire truck was empty. Jiang Xiao Yong looked outside with a thoughtful expression, continuing to speak to himself. The day after tomorrow is the first day of the apocalypse. I need to think carefully about whether there's anything else I need to do. The great disaster was fast approaching, and everything Jiang Xiao Yong had prepared was basically in place. He had a hangout far from the city, enough food for 10 years, a full set of weapons, and his combat strength had been upgraded. Now it was just a matter of facing the challenges ahead, but there was still one thing bothering him. He had tricked a poor old man into buying his house for all the money he had saved up over his lifetime, along with his granddaughter's savings. Remembering what the old man had said, Jiang Xiaoyong's face darkened with frustration. I'm not hiding anything from you, Mr. Jiang. My granddaughter is about to transfer to a different school, and we need this house to stabilize our lives. I've looked around here several times, and yours is the only house for sale. Mr. Jiang, you can't regret this. The old man's situation was so pitiful that it made Jiang Xiaoyong feel guilty. Jiang Xiaoyong felt a wave of helplessness wash over him as he thought about the old man and his granddaughter, stuck in a house they had bought with money they had worked so hard to save, only to face the possibility of dying in this great disaster. He rubbed his head in frustration, feeling just as powerless. He muttered to himself, even after going through life and death struggles in the apocalypse with all those deceitful people, I still can't completely ignore the suffering of these poor souls. With that, Jiang Xiaoyong turned and began to walk away, mentally making plans for the old man and his granddaughter. Forget it. I'll just send them some essential supplies. How long they'll survive in this world of the apocalypse depends on them. This might even be a way to pay back for the future plans they helped fund. The next morning, Jiang Xiaoyong drove to the old man's house. The shiny black car pulled up near an old, run-down apartment building. Stepping out of the car, Jiang Xiaoyong looked up at the weathered building inside a road to get here. Thank goodness for the GPS or who could ever find this place. The building didn't even have an elevator. Jiang Xiaoyong made his way up the stairs to the old man's apartment. After climbing several flights, he realized just how poor the old man must be. Not only had he rented such a cheap place, but he had also picked the top floor. Finally, he reached the old man's apartment. Jiang Xiaoyong was about to knock on the door, but suddenly stopped, remembering that he had stored all the necessary supplies in the hidden compartment of his small ring. Jiang Xiaoyong quickly turned the ring in his hand, worried that if he took out the essential supplies in front of the old man, things might get complicated. He carefully thought about it for a moment and decided it was better to take out the materials he needed to deliver first. If he didn't, it would be hard to explain later. The ring on his finger instantly began to glow brightly, and in no time, dozens of neatly stacked boxes appeared right in front of him. Inside the house, a knock sounded on the door. Knock, knock, knock. The old man, busy with housework, hurried to open the door. He called out loudly to whoever was outside. Come in, please wait a moment. Thinking it was the landlord coming to collect the rent, the old man hadn't even fully opened his eyes yet. Without looking closely, he said, the rent will definitely be paid next week. Jiang Xiaoyong stood there, still not making a move. When the old man finally opened his eyes, he realized it wasn't who he had expected. Surprised, he widened his eyes and said cautiously, aren't you Mr. Jiang? As he opened the door, the old man was completely shocked by the sight before him. Dozens of boxes were piled up, blocking the entire path. The old man stood there, dumbfounded, unable to process what was happening. He asked, Mr. Jiang, you're here, but what is? Could you explain what's going on? Jiang Xiaoyong carried a box into the old man's house and turned around to say, I'll explain everything in a minute, but first, let's get all this inside. We don't want the neighbors to see any of this. The old man still held onto the doorknob, his face showing confusion. After a while, they had moved all the boxes inside. Jiang Xiaoyong carefully helped the old man organize everything. Once they were done, the old man put his hands on his hips, sighed in relief, and said to Xiaoyong, you young folks really have a lot of energy. You can carry so many things at once without even needing a break. Feeling that everything was taken care of, Xiaoyong walked around the house. He went over to the door, then turned back and said, the room's still okay, and the door's about as sturdy as it's going to get. He looked out the window and decided it was time to tell the old man the truth. Grandpa, he said, I need to tell you something now. You'd better listen carefully. The old man's eyes widened, clearly curious about everything Jiang Xiaoyong had been doing. Xiaoyong then warned him, these supplies, make sure you plan to use them well. Even if you only live for half a year, it won't be a big problem. Starting tomorrow, this world is going to. Before he could finish speaking, a photo on the table caught Jiang Xiaoyong's attention. He didn't know what was so special about the photo frame that made Xiaoyong freeze like that. The old man noticed him suddenly stop and curious, he asked, is something wrong, Mr. Jiang? You can place these items in your room for now. After all, we'll move them to your new place in a month. The photo made Jiang Xiaoyong stop in his tracks. It was a picture of the old man and his granddaughter. The girl looked exactly like the companion Jiang Xiao Yong had during his time setting up a safe base to fight off the zombies. He couldn't believe how small the world was. Jiang Xiao Yong was taken aback and said, "Is that Shan Shan? I can't believe she looks just like my teammate." It was uncanny. Jiang Xiao Yong picked up the photo to look at it more closely. He asked the old man, "Excuse me, is your granddaughter's name Meng Shan Shan?" The old man was completely shocked. His mouth dropped open as he asked, "How did you know that? I don't remember mentioning her name, Shan Shan." Jiang Xiaoyong paused and then said, "So it's true. I didn't expect this old man to be Shan Shan's grandfather." Jiang Xiaoyong's expression grew serious. He asked the old man about Shan Shan's whereabouts. "Where is your grandmother now?" The old man replied honestly, "She's studying back home right now, still waiting for your room to be ready. Once that's done, we'll be able to move. The paperwork's almost finished." In the previous life, Jiang Xiaoyong met Shan Shan when both of them were left all alone with no family or loved ones left alive. Thinking back to that time, he remembered how little Shan Shan had been sitting, head lowered, crying on a pile of broken bricks, sobbing and blaming herself. "It's all my fault. I'm the one who caused Grandpa's death." Just remembering that moment made Jiang Xiaoyong feel a deep sense of sympathy. He recalled how Shan Shan had told him in their past life that her grandfather had risked everything, rushing into the occupied high school to save her. Although he managed to get her out safely, he lost his life in the process. Originally, Jiang Xiaoyong came to deliver a few months' worth of supplies for the two of them to survive on, and after that, it was up to them. But he never expected that this granddaughter would turn out to be his teammate from the previous life, and that it was because of his own mistakes back then that his teammate had died so tragically. Gently setting the photo back in its place, Jiang Xiaoyong silently promised Shan Shan that he would make up for her regrets in this life. Then he turned to speak to the old man with a kind, thoughtful look in his eyes. "Old man, you can't move into my room anymore." "Mr. Jiang, what are you saying?" The old man stammered. Mr. Jiang, you can't." Misunderstanding Jiang Xiaoyong's meaning, the old man thought that Jiang Xiaoyong had changed his mind and no longer wanted to sell the house. He anxiously pleaded with him, his face full of worry. Placing his hand on the old man's shoulder, Jiang Xiaoyong tried his best to calm him down. He spoke seriously, explaining the situation to him. "Please listen to me first. Starting tomorrow, this world is going to turn into a living hell. It doesn't matter anymore how my house is or what's going on with your granddaughter's school. None of that will matter." The old man froze, unable to say a word. Jiang Xiaoyong couldn't tell if the old man believed him or not, but his face was filled with shock. Xiaoyong continued, speaking faster now. "Right now, you need to come with me. We're going to pick up Shan Shan from her school, and I'll arrange a new place for both of you." How could a normal person possibly believe that tomorrow would bring the end of the world? The old man was clearly confused. He furrowed his brow and asked, still struggling to understand, "Jiang, Mr. Jiang, what are you talking about? I don't understand a single word of this." Jiang Xiaoyong was even more confused than the old man. He knew disaster was coming, but he had no idea how to explain it. Feeling powerless, he thought to himself, "Old Han is already so old. There's so much he won't get. How can I possibly explain this to him?" Jiang Xiaoyong then turned the ring on his middle finger while explaining each part as simply as possible so the old man could understand. He calmly asked him, "Do you know about famines?" The old man replied immediately, "I know about that." As he continued spinning the ring, Jiang Xiaoyong added, "Then can you imagine how desperate and terrible things must have been for people during those times of hunger?" The old man looked more tense and hesitantly responded, "Well, I can imagine, but this is a time of peace and prosperity. How could there be a famine? Even if there were one, it wouldn't be." Before the old man could finish his thought, Jiang Xiaoyong stretched out his hand with the ring facing the center of the room. Immediately, everything in the room distorted and was sucked into the space inside the ring. Seeing this strange sight, a poor old man was completely stunned. His eyes and mouth opened wide without thinking, his mind filled with a giant question mark. Within seconds, everything in the house was drawn into the ring. Dust swirled around Jiang Xiaoyong and the old man, causing the old man to feel so dizzy that he almost couldn't stand. His knees buckled slightly as he turned his head, looking around in confusion. In fear, he shouted, "What? Where did everything go? All those things are gone. Mr. Jiang, what kind of magic is this?" It was only by directly showing the old man these strange things that he could start to believe what Xiaoyong had been saying. He extended his hand, still wearing the ring that glowed bright purple, to show old Han. A strong green aura seemed to radiate from his eyes. Jiang Xiaoyong explained seriously, "I have superpowers, and I can even predict the future. If you want to live, and if you want Shan Shan to live, you have to follow my instructions from now on." Then, with a stern look, he asked, "Where is Shan Shan's school?" A short while later, Jiang Xiao Yong's black car pulled up in front of Shan Shan's school. He had brought Old Han along. It seemed that after witnessing Jiang Xiao Yong's magical display, Old Han was now completely convinced. He couldn't stop staring at Jiang Xiao Yong, still in shock. The car sped it into the school courtyard. Jiang Xiao Yong and Old Han quickly got out. Jiang Xiao Yong urgently asked the old man, "What grade is Shan Shan in? Where's her dormitory? Do you know where that is?" Old Han quickly answered, "Yes, I know." Jiang Xiao Yong nodded. "Good. We have to move fast." The scene shifts to where Shan Shan is. It looks like she's in trouble with some rebellious students. In front of Shan Shan stands a girl in sportswear, flanked by two other girls wearing skirts who block her way. Behind them, three boys are holding baseball bats, acting as guards for the two girls in front. As soon as they come face to face, one of the girls, dressed provocatively, too young for the outfit and makeup she's wearing, glares at Shan Shan. She looks tough and aggressive. Without warning, she slaps Shan Shan hard across the face, sending her stumbling to the side. The rebellious girl scowls and, with a loud voice, yells, "You worthless girl, I just can't understand what Jiang Xiao Chen sees in you to like you this much." Shan Shan, who has a personality similar to her grandfather's, is very gentle and shy. Even though her face is bruised and red from the slap, she weakly tries to explain to the girl, "I've told you, I don't have any relationship with him. It's just a one-sided wish of his." Shan Shan raises her hand to shield her face, resisting weakly. As soon as she finished speaking, the girl next to her rushed over and kicked Shan Shan hard in the stomach. The girl shouted even louder, her violence growing as she yelled, "Are you still making excuses?" Shan Shan, pitifully, took another kick. She curled up in pain, sitting down on the ground when the girl in the black shirt stepped closer and grabbed her hair. Her eyes widened with anger, and the harder she got, the tighter she pulled on Shan Shan's hair. She snapped at Shan Shan. "What do you mean by that? Are you saying Jiang Xiao Chen was following you, and you just ignored it?" The pain was unbearable, and Shan Shan cried out, "Ah, ah." While she was struggling with the two aggressive girls, a loud voice suddenly shouted, "Hey, what do you think you're doing to my granddaughter?" This caught the attention of the two girls, who turned to glare at Shan Shan. The sun was beginning to set, and it was then that Old Han and Jiang Xiaoyong arrived at Shan Shan's side. Seeing the situation, they quickly rushed over. The girl with her hair tied up was surprised when she saw Old Han and said to Shan Shan, "Huh? Isn't that your useless old man? He should be at home by now, getting dinner ready." Shan Shan, noticing her grandfather, was confused. "Grandpa, why are you here?" Lao Han pointed at the two female students and angrily shouted, "What do you think you're doing? Let Shan Shan go now." Jiang Xiaoyong, following behind him, wore a face full of anger. The three male students who were guarding the two girls finally stepped forward. The blonde-haired guy who was in charge casually pulled out a dagger and held it in front of his stomach. The other two had angry expressions, trying to act tough. This guy clearly didn't know how many years he'd been repeating his grade, but his face looked older than a rotten tomato. He glared at them, grinning in a nasty way while threatening, "Get back. This is none of your business, old man." Lao Han was so angry, he couldn't hold back. Seeing them bully his granddaughter, he gathered all his strength and lunged forward, shoving the blonde guy. The three of them were too much, though. The guy on the left, holding a baseball bat, swung it up high, aiming to hit Lao Han in the head with all his might. This guy seemed to have lost all sense of humanity. At that moment, he viciously yelled, "You old bastard, let go of her." Just as the bat was about to strike Lao Han's neck, luckily for him, Jiang Xiaoyong's hand shot out and stopped it in time. He grabbed both of the bully's hands and held them tightly. Furious yet calm, Jiang Xiaoyong scolded the young punks in a stern voice, "You're still young and you won't even focus on your studies. Instead, you're learning to be gangsters." Watching Jiang Xiaoyong block his friend's attacks, the two other boys couldn't help but laugh mockingly at him. "Ha, where did this poor idiot come from?" The blonde-haired boy leading the group seemed puzzled about Jiang Xiaoyong. "This little jerk, I didn't know he had an older brother." Seeing the boy still stubbornly holding onto the stick, refusing to let go, Jiang Xiaoyong got angry. He kicked him hard, sending him flying with great force, causing him to crash onto the ground and slam his back against the rough schoolyard surface. It must have hurt a lot. The other two boys, witnessing Jiang Xiaoyong's power, began to feel afraid. The two of them gritted their teeth, filled with worry as they faced Jiang Xiaoyong. The boy with the buzz cut cursed angrily. "Damn, he knows martial arts, bro." The blonde boy, though still nervous inside, kept talking like he wasn't scared. "Let's both go at him." Jiang Xiaoyong glanced over at them, his eyes observing the two boys carefully. One had a knife, the other a stick, with one standing in front and the other behind. They hesitated, neither of them daring to make the first move, while Jiang Xiao Yong stood still, watching them. After a pause, the boy with the buzz cut was the first to charge. He charged at Jiang Xiao Yong from behind, angrily aiming to strike him on the back of the head with a stick. But it wasn't that easy. Xiao Yong only needed a quick glance to figure out what the guy behind him was planning. His reflexes were lightning fast. He ducked down, successfully dodging the lethal blow. The guy tried to kick hard with his leg, putting all his force into it, but unfortunately, he missed. For Jiang Xiao Yong, his speed had improved so much that dodging punches from a normal person felt as easy as taking a walk. In that moment of evading the attack, Jiang Xiao Yong couldn't help but think to himself, since I've been improving my physical strength, my reflexes are way faster now. Out of nowhere, he grabbed the collar of the guy's buzzcut and yanked him back, making him jump in surprise. Without wasting a second, Jiang Xiao Yong used a judo throw, flipping the guy over his shoulder and slamming him hard onto the ground. Standing in a strong stance, Jiang Xiao Yong looked both handsome and ruthless. The guy who took the hit was completely stunned, his eyes wide in shock. That was 2 problems dealt with, but there was still one more. The guy with the blonde hair. The blonde boy pointed a dagger straight at Jiang Xiao Yong. Even seeing the situation unfold, he remained stubborn and shot a fierce glare at Jiang Xiao Yong. But in the next second, Jiang Xiao Yong rushed forward and grabbed the sleeve of the boy leading the group. The boy was clearly surprised, his eyes wide as he prepared to deliver a strong kick. Jiang Xiao Yong bent his knee back to gather momentum, then kicked the boy's knee like he was kicking a soccer ball. The force of the kick was so powerful that the boy lost his balance and fell backward, hitting his head hard against the ground with a deadly thud. For someone like Jiang Xiao Yong, handling a few punks like this was no big deal. With just a small effort, 3 of them were already lying on the ground at his feet. Dust swirled around him, and the first problem was solved. Now, the next target was the 2 girls who had caused trouble for Shan Shan. Jiang Xiao Yong said nothing. He remained silent as he walked over toward the 2 loud-mouthed girls. The woman with her hair tied up high sensed something bad was coming. She trembled and said, "What do you want to do?" First, Jiang Xiao Yong took the opportunity to slap her across the face. Her pretty face twisted with the force of the blow, turning red and stained from the pain. She froze for a few seconds, eyes wide open, as if she couldn't believe that someone had actually hit her like this. Next, Jiang Xiao Yong grabbed her head the same way she had grabbed Shan Shan's earlier. He clenched his grip hard and lowered his voice, threatening her, "You really like grabbing people by the head, huh?" The girl struggled, trying to break free as Jiang Xiao Yong yanked her hair and forced her forward. She screamed loudly, "Ah, let me go." Jiang Xiao Yong wasn't being gentle with someone like her. His face twisted with menace, and he pressed a dagger against her throat. The sight of the weapon made her panic. She lost her composure, tears welling up in her eyes as she shouted, "A knife? What do you want to do?" Staying calm and cold as usual, Jiang Xiao Yong swiped the blade sharply, and her screams echoed, "Ah, ah." Below the legs of the long-haired female student, Shan Shan and the spoiled girl witnessed Jiang Xiao Yong attacking their classmate. The girl with the bun was so terrified that she couldn't stand up, while Shan Shan, overcome with fear, covered her face with her hands, too scared to look. The long-haired girl's knees hit the ground, and she collapsed onto the pavement, her hands reaching up to touch her hair. She couldn't believe that the long hair she had spent years growing out had been chopped off by Jiang Xiao Yong in the blink of an eye. She screamed, "My hair, my hair!" In a fit of rage, her mouth opened wide, her eyes bulging, and she screamed loudly at Xiao Yong, "You bastard! How dare you cut my hair? You son of a bitch! I won't forgive you." Standing above her, Jiang Xiao Yong gave her a cold, unfeeling look. He let a few strands of hair fall slowly to the ground in front of her, then said, "Long hair is nothing but a burden for you." The girl turned to look at Xiao Yong and, without hesitation, responded rudely, "What did you just say?" Without missing a beat, Jiang Xiao Yong turned and began walking away. He glanced back and added a final reminder to the girl, "In a few days, this hair will stay your life." As for the rebellious girl, she kept her sullen, angry face, waiting for Xiao Yong to leave. Meanwhile, Old Man Han was still by his granddaughter, Shan Shan's side. The little girl clasped her hands together, staring at Jiang Xiao Yong with admiration. Not forgetting her, Jiang Xiao Yong called out to her in a warm, familiar tone, like he was calling a family member, "Shan Shan, let's go." Startled, the little girl quickly asked, "Where are we going?" "Where to?" In no time, Xiao Yong's black car was already waiting for the 2 of them on the main road. With that, Jiang Xiao Yong successfully led both of them back to the base he had spent the last month building. Shan Shan, full of surprise, spoke up in the car, "Huh? We're not going to class anymore." At this point, Old Man Han finally had the chance to explain things to his little granddaughter. He repeated what he had understood from Xiao Yong's words. A famine is coming soon. Who has time to study anymore? Staying alive will be a miracle. Just when you're going about your studies like any other day, your grandfather suddenly tells you to hide because a famine is coming. How could Shan Shan believe him right away? She tugged at Old Man Han's waistband, confused, and asked again, "What's a famine?" For her confused state, Shan Shan suddenly turned serious and reminded her grandfather. "Grandpa, I've told you so many times already. Stop trusting those phone scams. Are you worried you've been tricked?" Shan Shan pressed on. "Tell me, how much money did you lose this time?" Old Man Han tried to explain to her. "What scam? What I was saying is the truth." But Shan Shan was still firm in her response. "Every time you're tricked, you always say it's the truth." As she and her grandfather bickered through the car mirror, Jiang Xiao Yong silently made a promise to her, "Shan Shan, in this life, I will definitely protect you." Xiao Yong was driving, and as he did, he turned to Shan Shan to explain things more clearly. "Your grandfather won't be misled this time. I was the one who told him about the food shortages," he said. After hearing Jiang Xiao Yong speak, Shan Shan's eyes widened in confusion as she stared at him. It was only then that she fully realized who had been driving them, and she asked hesitantly, "Who are you?" The car picked up speed and turned onto the main road. Jiang Xiao Yong replied from the front seat, "My name is Jiang Xiao Yong. From now on, just call me Xiao Yong." Shan Shan quickly responded, "Xiao Yong, thank you for standing up to those people and helping me deal with what happened." He reassured her with a calm voice, "Don't worry, they won't be bothering you again anytime soon." Shan Shan looked at him, startled by the implication. She asked nervously, "What do you mean? Is there really a food crisis?" While focusing on driving, Jiang Xiao Yong kept his eyes straight ahead. He continued in a calm tone, saying, "The famine is just something I made up to make it easier for your grandfather to understand." Shan Shan froze, looking a bit hesitant as she replied, "Ah, I told you. With how peaceful things are now, how could there be a famine?" Jiang Xiao Yong remained calm and responded, "The truth is, the apocalypse is about to start." Hearing that, Shan Shan was completely stunned. Her eyes widened even more, and she exclaimed, "The apocalypse." Xiao Yong's gaze grew much more serious. He lowered his voice and said, "The time is probably near. If you turn on your phone and watch the news clips or read some headlines, you might start noticing some clues." Trusting Jiang Xiao Yong's words, Shan Shan immediately pulled out her phone and turned on the news. Before long, she gasped, "What? Is this real or fake?" The news report on her phone read, "Control from the grudge of the gangster, like moonlight shining through the western wind blowing, causing leaves to fall. Haha, this is the first time in my life I've seen a rabid person bite someone," the report continued. On the screen, Shan Shan saw a pale-skinned person drooling uncontrollably, being held down by two riot police officers. At that moment, the media and the public still believed the person was just suffering from rabies. Swiping to the next section, Shan Shan came across another news report about the apocalyptic situation. Was it fog again? I'm not sure if I'm just imagining things, but this fog seems to have a very strange smell. Shan Shan instinctively pulled her hand back. She scrolled further to a video recorded by some civilians. In it, someone was yelling, "Dan, are you crazy? Why are you biting me? What the hell? Are you a dog or something?" Another person in distress was struggling, speaking weakly. "I don't know why, but I just can't control it. My whole body feels awful. Please take me to the hospital." Shan Shan brought the phone closer to get a better look, her heart racing. Her pupils widened as if she were losing herself. Jiang Xiao Yong, who was already used to scenes like this, remained calm as he tried to assess the situation. Sure enough, the signs of the apocalypse had appeared. Shan Shan, sitting behind a little girl, felt really worried. The little girl glanced up from her phone, trembling, and asked, "Xiao Yong, is it true? Is the apocalypse really happening?" The car, still moving along the road, was waiting for the three of them. Inside the car, Jiang Xiao Yong was the first to speak, updating Shan Shan and Old Han on the situation. Tomorrow marks the first day of the apocalypse. Toxic smoke will blanket several provinces, including Province B. It's almost evening now, so I've turned on the headlights. He continued, "This strange, toxic fog will affect all living creatures." He went on to explain the true nature of the disaster to them. Gradually, a large number of people would turn into zombies because of this change. Some would even start eating others. Without immunity, once someone dies, they'll become one of them. As they drove on, Xiao Yong slowed down. He stared seriously ahead. "You're still young. Do you even know what a zombie is?" Leaning forward, Shan Shan playfully answered, her voice full of innocence. "I know. It's just hard to believe." By now, the highway was packed with cars, stuck in a long traffic jam. Jiang Xiao Yong added, "By tomorrow, the day after, and even next week, all of this will really happen. By then, it won't seem strange anymore. Jiang Xiao Yong leaned out of the car window, frowning and clenching his jaw in frustration. Huh, and now we're stuck in traffic. Not just the regular lanes, the emergency lanes jammed too. The sound of car horns echoed all around them. He thought to himself, figures, even the emergency route up ahead isn't moving. Old Han, clearly uneasy, turned to Jiang Xiao Yong and asked, trying to stay one step ahead. Mr. Jiang, if the situation you mentioned before really starts happening, what should we do if it catches up to us? Jiang Xiao Yong edged the black car closer to a white car in front and gave the horn a firm press. Mr. Han, don't worry, we're not at a critical point yet. On the outside, he kept his tone calm and steady to avoid causing panic. But inside, his thoughts were racing. This whole outbreak situation is spiraling fast. It's not a full-blown crisis here yet, but if something small flares up in this traffic, things could go bad quickly. The three of them, Jiang Xiao Yong and the two older men from Old Han's family, remained stuck in the slow-moving gridlock. Suddenly, a luxury car whirred past them in the adjacent lane, weaving through the jam with reckless speed. Then, the car suddenly swerved into the lane right in front of Xiao Yong's vehicle. It was so unexpected. Inside the car, Xiao Yong slammed on the brakes to avoid a collision, and all three passengers were thrown forward with a strong force. Xiao Yong was visibly furious. He gritted his teeth, glaring with anger, and shouted loudly, "Dan, are you serious? No signal, just swerving from the emergency lane right into a traffic jam. What the hell?" Fuming with rage, Xiao Yong jerked the steering wheel hard and his car shot forward, almost tailgating the white car ahead of him, successfully blocking the black car from cutting in. But the driver of the Mercedes wasn't backing off. He kept trying to squeeze past Xiao Yong, forcing him to stop so the guy could cut in. Already in a hurry and stuck with this idiot, Xiao Yong shot a glare at the Mercedes from his car and cursed, "Damn, still not stopping. You're still going to try this." Neither side was willing to back down. Every time the Mercedes tried to move forward, Xiao Yong's car inched ahead to block it. Finally, when they were about to come into contact, the Mercedes driver finally rolled down his window. He started ranting nonstop, swearing at Xiao Yong and repeatedly insulting his mother. Xiao Yong just ignored him, letting the guy's words breeze past him without a second thought, too fed up to care. Old Han sat in the back, and with his usual calm demeanor, he still preferred the idea of letting some things slide for the greater good. He leaned forward and advised Xiao Yong, "Mr. Jiang, it looks like that guy is someone with money. Let's just consider this one of those situations where avoiding conflict is better than engaging. Now that you have money in a house, there's nothing to fear in this world. You shouldn't be afraid of anyone, not even their father." Xiao Yong kept his eyes straight ahead, his face serious, and replied to Old Han, "Don't worry if he gets out of the car to cause trouble. I won't hesitate to send him off first. It should have been the end of the matter by now." Finally, Jiang Xiao Yong's car was able to speed down the road. He sighed in relief and said, "We're finally free." The traffic jam had lasted a whole hour. Looking into the rearview mirror, Shan noticed a car speeding towards them. She shouted out to warn Xiao Yong, "Jiang Xiao Yong, be careful. That's the same car that tried to block us earlier." Before she could even finish speaking, the expensive black car had already swerved close to their vehicle. Its headlights flashed on, and the horn blared loudly. Trouble was coming again. Jiang Xiao Yong glanced at him and angrily shouted, "Damn it! This is really the kind of ghost who never rests." The expensive car sped toward them at breakneck speed, slamming into the front of Xiao Yong's car with such force that it almost tipped over. The arrogant rich guy had blocked Xiao Yong's car, and inside, all three of them were thrown into chaos. Shan was thrown hard against the seat, wincing in pain. Old Man Han, worried about the trouble this might cause, quickly tried to warn Jiang Xiao Yong, "Mr. Jiang, calm down. Don't slam on the brakes and jump out recklessly. You'll just get yourself into more trouble." Jiang Xiao Yong, gripping the steering wheel, was also jolted back and forth by the impact. His eyes burned with anger. A person can only take so much, and this was pushing it. Finally, Jiang Xiao Yong snapped back at Old Man Han. "If this were before, I could put up with it. But tomorrow is the end of the world. I'm not going to tolerate this trash anymore." Slamming his foot down on the gas pedal, Jiang Xiao Yong drove straight at the Mercedes, blocking their path. The force of the collision sent Shan flying off to the side of the road. The massive car skidded across the street, screeching loudly, its tires grinding against the asphalt. The rich, arrogant guy's car left a large black tire mark on the ground, and it looked like the vehicle might be damaged. He got out of the car, clutching his head in pain, still shouting angrily, "Damn it, you piece of crap." Turns out, this guy was someone with power and influence, which is why he was acting so arrogantly on the road like he owned it. He pulled out his phone and immediately called the local traffic police, shouting orders into the phone. Hello, get the traffic camera team on the line right now. Find me that license plate number. By this time, Jiang Xiao Yong's car had already disappeared, leaving only a small glimpse of it. The man stood there fuming, watching the car slowly fade out of sight. He angrily said to the person on the other end of the phone, "I'm going to make sure he knows he can't just mess with me." After escaping the trouble on the road, Jiang Xiao Yong finally managed to get Shan Shan and Old Han safely to the newly built base. The car slowed down and stopped right at the main entrance. The three of them got out of the car. As soon as Old Han stepped out, he was left speechless, staring in awe at the new base, his eyes wide open in surprise. Shan Shan also looked around amazed, since it was her first time setting foot in such a vast place. The three of them felt tiny standing in the middle of such a huge industrial area. Shan Shan couldn't help but exclaim, "Wow, this place is incredible!" Jiang Xiao Yong walked ahead, then turned around to speak to both of them. "You and Shan Shan should get some rest tonight. Starting tomorrow, things are going to get tougher." Both of them paid attention to Xiao Yong's words, and a look of unease appeared on their faces as they thought about what was coming. The next morning, Jiang Xiao Yong stood in front of a large glass door, leisurely enjoying the view of the morning outside. He was holding a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. Shan Shan had just woken up, stretching with a big yawn. She raised her arms high, stretching out her muscles while saying, "Ah, it's been so long since I've slept like that. It feels so good not to have to go to school this morning." Hearing this, Xiao Yong smiled gently, looking at Shan Shan with a soft gaze. Jiang Xiao Yong, looking handsome in the early sunlight, turned around and, with a friendly tone, said to her, "You're up? Let's go. Follow me and I'll show you around our little fortress." And so, both Old Han and Shan Shan followed Jiang Xiao Yong as he led them through the factory. Xiao Yong walked ahead with the old man and Shan Shan trailing behind. Xiao Yong took them to a large room above the modern lighting system. Since it had just been completed, the space looked quite impressive, but there was nothing inside. Xiao Yong explained the remote-controlled gate is made of pure steel, 3 centimeters thick. Not even a person or a zombie can break through it. Unless, of course, we have heavy-duty weapons. Xiao Yong turned around and carefully reminded Shan Shan, "Remember, if I'm not here, no one is allowed to enter the fortress except the three of us." Shan Shan looked a bit tense as Xiao Yong spoke seriously about being cautious. She lowered her head slightly, hesitating as she glanced at him. He then called out to her, "Come on, follow me." From inside the house, Xiao Yong had built an observation tower connected by a large overpass leading outside. He was now guiding Shan Shan and her grandfather toward it. As they walked, he continued to give instructions. At that moment, truss was in short supply, and the three of them were crossing the overpass. The bridge was almost like a road in itself. To be honest, Xiao Yong's level of investment in this was impressive. Xiao Yong continued, "The darker side of human nature gets amplified many times over. Kindness will only hurt us." From above, both Old Han and Shan Shan looked down and were speechless with astonishment at what they saw. The sea before them was a fenced-off area surrounded by barbed wire. Inside, there were long shipping containers and a row of 2-story buildings. Jiang Xiao Yong went on to explain so they could understand better. "If I'm not around and any survivors come asking for help, this area can provide them with temporary shelter. But before I return, no one is allowed into the fortress. Do you understand?" Shan Shan quickly responded, "I understand." Jiang Xiao Yong led them both to the food storage warehouse. He slid his hands into his pockets, walking as he continued, "I'll take you to the storage area so you both know which section holds food and which items are available for distribution. I'll explain everything to you." A few minutes later, 3 of them arrived at the warehouse. From the corner, they looked tiny in comparison to the massive space, which showed just how enormous the warehouse was. Then Jiang Xiao Yong turned and spoke to them. Finally, he activated his spiritual eye. A bright green flame blazed in his right eye. Through this eye, he could see the emotions of Lao Han and Shan Shan. Both of them had joyful smiles, their faces blank but eager, waiting for Xiao Yong's next words. Xiao Yong thought to himself, could this be a sign of trust? This is the first time I've seen it. He pointed the ring straight down to the floor, and it flashed, summoning a wooden crate. "Weapons are very important in this world," he said. Shan Shan and Lao Han stared in awe. Each of them quickly grabbed a weapon that suited them. Shan Shan took a crossbow, and Lao Han picked up a shotgun. Both of them were stunned, unable to speak a word. Jiang Xiao Yong continued, giving them strict instructions. "You must always keep control in your hands. Never let it fall into the wrong ones." The old man, though advanced in age, was still fully aware of what needed to be done. He replied to Jiang Xiao Yong with as much authority as he could muster, "Yes, definitely." A system notification unexpectedly popped up after Jiang Xiao Yong finished giving instructions to the 2 elders. The mission to meet with Meng Shan was activated. The quest titled Old Partners had started. New mission, Old Partners Level 1, requiring the search for and rescue of an old companion from a past life. Tang Zi, the reward, 20 points. Jiang Xiao Yong's eyes widened as if that was exactly what he had hoped for. He thought to himself, oh, this is great. I've been worried about how to track down my old teammates, and now I get the chance to find an old friend and earn some points at the same time. Without hesitation, Jiang Xiaoyong sprang into action. He turned around and called out to Shan, who was still staring at him in confusion as he dashed off. Remember everything I just told you? Don't break any of the rules. Hastily jumping into the driver's seat, Jiang Xiaoyong shouted out from the car, I'm going to recruit some new members and expand our team. With that, he hit the gas and drove off, following the direction of the arrow on the map. At a popular karaoke KTV in the city, it was late afternoon, and the sky was gradually darkening. Inside, many people were happily singing, including Jiang Zi, an old teammate of Jiang Xiaoyong. They had no idea about anything related to zombies or the outbreak. Jiang Zi had just finished singing and was walking out of the karaoke room with a guy wearing a dress shirt. Someone asked them, "What are you two up to?" The guy leaned on the doorframe to steady himself and jokingly replied, "Oh, we're off to the circle of reincarnation, of course." The people inside didn't pay much attention and casually joked back, "Take it easy. Don't start calling haha now." Jiang Zi, feeling dizzy and slightly drunk, didn't quite understand what was going on, but still laughed and said, "Wrap it up and bring it back for me." From inside the men's restroom, the sounds of two people letting off some steam were clear. One of them said, "Damn, my bladder's about to explode. My kidneys are failing." There was also a loud shout, "Get away from me." Afterward, the two of them put their arms around each other and happily headed back to the dining area. By chance, Zhang Zai bumped into a beautiful woman who was with a man. She was startled and let out a sharp scream, giving him a displeased look. Jiang Zi quickly raised his hand in a gesture of apology and hurriedly said, "Ah, sorry, I didn't mean to." Even though it was just a small bump, both of them seemed bothered by it. The boyfriend used that excuse to charge at Jiang Zi and landed a hard punch right in his stomach, sending Jiang Zi flying across the room. His eyes narrowed and his mouth was wide open. "You blind idiot." Jiang Zi took the full force of the kick, crashing into the corner of the wall. His back slammed with a loud thud. He couldn't handle the pain and cried out in agony. "Oh!" Jiang Zi's friend, the one with the big belly wearing Jiang Zi's shirt, quickly ran over to check on him. "Are you okay?" Jiang Zi was dizzy from the alcohol and still reeling from the blow. He couldn't say anything because of the pain. He just winced, trying to get his bearings. Seeing how outrageous this situation was, his big-bellied friend shouted at the boyfriend, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Why are you hitting people for no reason?" The boyfriend just stood there, unfazed, with his hands stuffed in his pockets, looking down at Jiang Zi on the floor. He then turned to the big-bellied friend. Cracking his knuckles, he gritted his teeth and threatened him. "Oh damn, this is the first time anyone's dared to talk back to me." What made it worse was the boyfriend, confident in his size and strength, grabbed the big-bellied friend by the collar and lifted him off the ground as if he weighed nothing. The friend, clearly panicking, struggled, kicking his legs in a desperate attempt to break free. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" The girlfriend leaned against the corner of the wall, watching the scene unfold, a smug smile on her face. Jiang Zi didn't want things to escalate. He hobbled to his feet, quickly and nervously, begging the boyfriend to stop. "Big guy, we're in the wrong here. Please don't do anything. Just don't hurt us." The atmosphere over there was tense and chaotic. Near that spot, there was a man blowing his nose really loudly. Shush, shush. It turned out he was a waiter here. Taking advantage of a few seconds of break, he was resting when he got drawn into the drama unfolding with 4 people nearby. He looked over and thought to himself, "Damn, I got a stomach ache and a cold too. Wait, is there a fight breaking out again? Can't anyone just sit quietly for even an hour?" The waiter quickly ran over to break up the argument. Sir, please don't argue." The boyfriend seemed completely out of his mind. He grabbed the waiter's collar, lifted his eyes, and shouted straight at him, "Son of a bitch, you see this face? Do you know who my father is? Even your boss wouldn't dare touch my clothes." Truly passionate about his work, the waiter was completely focused on his job. His collar was grabbed, but he quietly gestured with his hand, signaling the 2 people, Zhang Zi, to move away. He also whispered with his lips, "Please, gentlemen, hurry up and leave. I'm really sorry." Meanwhile, the boyfriend was still acting aggressively. He seemed to shift his frustrations somewhere else and grabbed the staff member by the neck, shouting in a bossy tone, "Get your boss out here now. Damn it, I'm losing face. I don't like this KTV place at all." Jiang Zi and his chubby friend took off as soon as they could. Meanwhile, a poor staff member was the one who suffered the most, struggling to breathe with the guy's hand around his neck, desperately begging, "Please calm down, sir." "Calm down," the guy snapped. "We're running so fast our pants are about to fall down," and in the end we both rushed straight into room 3090. They hurriedly barged into the room, where their friends were still casually sitting and singing. Jiang Zi immediately flopped down onto a chair, panting, while the chubby friend leaned against the armrest, both of them out of breath. Seeing this, one of their friends asked, "You two look like you were being chased by a dog. What happened?" Gasping for air, the chubby friend turned to explain it wasn't a dog chasing us. I just stepped out of the bathroom and accidentally bumped into this drunk gangster. He was about to hit me and Jiang Zi. Luckily, the staff member was quick thinking enough to distract him, or we'd be getting our faces smashed right now. The friend who muted the microphone angrily stood up, fuming for his teammates. He shouted, "Damn it, what do you think you're doing? When did our mechanical team ever have to put up with this kind of thing? Just wait, I'll make a call and bring everyone here. Who are we afraid of? We'll deal with him for sure." Seeing his friend get so worked up, the guy in the white shirt next to him jumped in shock. Jiang Zi, still calm, tried to ease the tension. He raised his hand, signaling for them to stop. All right, that's enough. It's less than a year until I graduate, so stop causing trouble. Go ahead and keep singing, keep dancing, buddy." A moment later, the karaoke room door of Jiang Zi's group was kicked open hard by a booted foot. With just one kick, the door flew wide open. The man carried with him a staff member, his face badly beaten and swollen. Behind him were several tough-looking thugs and the woman who had been following them earlier. The four men from the third mechanics team, who had just begun to recover, lost all composure again. Their faces went pale as they looked out the door in panic. One of the thugs stepped forward, holding a long baseball bat, followed by two large men advancing toward them. The boyfriend pointed directly at Jiang Zi's face and said, "That's them, right there." The four men from the third mechanics team couldn't decide whether to stand or sit. They fidgeted nervously, hunched over, trying to resist. The thug growled, "Grab them for me." Jiang Zi and the chubby man crouched on the floor, holding their heads while three of the thugs kept watch. The staff member, badly injured, huddled in a corner, trembling and clutching his chest. Among the group, the friend with the buzz cut was the only one who still had some fight left in him. Unable to take it anymore, he shouted while clutching his head, "Do you dare let me make a call?" The arrogant thug wasn't having any of it. He sneered and snarled, "Damn it, did I tell you to talk?" With that, he immediately grabbed a bottle of liquor and viciously slammed it down onto the buzzcut guy's head. The full bottle of wine hit him with a crushing blow, knocking him out cold. Zhang Zi stared in shock at his friend and called out, "Chen Song." Chen Song was completely still, his blood mixing with the fresh alcohol, flowing down in a steady stream. Outside the KTV, Jiang Xiao Yong's black car had parked right in front of the door. At that moment, he followed the directions given by the system and finally arrived. Standing in front of the karaoke bar, Jiang Xiao Yong was excited to meet up with his old teammates. He smiled and happily said, "Haha, college students are always so lively." Inside the karaoke room, where Jiang Zi was facing trouble, it was fortunate that Jiang Xiao Yong arrived just in time. Two staff members opened the door wide and greeted him like he was an important guest. Back in room 3090, Chen Song screamed, "Ah! Ah!" Then he collapsed onto the floor, blood pouring from his head, forming a large pool. Jiang Zi, standing next to him, immediately became frantic and shook Chen Song's arm. "Chen Song," Jiang Zi called out. The aggressive boyfriend was still holding the broken bottle, with the jagged end in his hand. The bad guys around them stood there cold and emotionless, watching the scene unfold. The boyfriend casually draped his arm around his girlfriend's shoulders. He gently stroked her arm and asked in a soft voice, "How are you, babe? Are you feeling better now?" The woman in the red dress didn't seem happy at all. She was indifferent, inspecting her nails while casually saying, "What's there to be upset about? It's not like you ran into me." These people truly treated other people's lives like they were nothing. The woman in the red dress just stood there, sulking and picking at her nails. The guy kept aiming another bottle of liquor at Jiang Zi's face. He tilted his mouth to one side, grinning mockingly and said with a taunting tone, "This is the one, right?" Jiang Zi sensed danger was about to strike, but he stayed silent. He had no choice but to hold back his anger and say nothing, just clenching his frustration inside. Chen Song seemed like he had given up, but in a flash, he quickly reached behind him for an ashtray, gripping it tightly. Struggling, he tried to get up and launch an attack on the arrogant guy, but two of his underlings grabbed him by the armpits, blocking him. One of them shouted aggressively, "You little brat, you still dare to fight back." Caught off guard, the boyfriend instinctively flinched and stepped back. This guy had a wild personality, and Chen Song's move made him explode with rage. His face twisted in fury as he glared, grinding his teeth, and said, "Damn it, I didn't expect you to have this much guts." The liquor was supposed to be for Jiang Zi, but now it's all coming back to bite me in the face thanks to Shen Song. This time, the boyfriend hit even harder, putting all his force into the blow. His body leaned to one side. The two underlings kept holding Shen Song tight, forcing him to take the beating. Shen Song's eyes rolled back as they released him, and he fell face first onto the floor. Seeing his friend taking the hits for him, Jiang Zi was completely overwhelmed with emotion. He knelt beside Shen Song, yelling in defiance, unable to hold back any longer against this arrogant, ruthless person. Jiang Zi sprang to his feet and rushed at the guy, shouting, "You bastard! Son of a bitch!" Even Big Belly, who had been watching from the side, quickly ran over to join Jiang Zi. Both of them clenched their fists and aimed at the same target, while only the guy in the white shirt remained huddled in a corner. He was holding his head with his hands, curled up with his knees to his chest, shaking uncontrollably. Around them, there were more shouts of anger. "Aren't you little punks scared yet? Ashhole. If I catch any of you, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you." In the chaos of the fight, no one seemed to notice the service worker suddenly acting strange. He was coughing violently, his whole body turning purple, with veins running up toward his face. Sweat was pouring off him like rain. He was shivering uncontrollably, as if he were in the Arctic. Jiang Zi was still struggling with two guys. He swung a punch at the guy with black hair, but the guy dodged it. From behind Jiang Zi, one of the attackers grabbed his arm. In that moment, the service worker had completely changed. His face had turned deathly white, and purple veins were visible on his neck and forehead. His eyes were bleeding, and drool and foam were spilling from his mouth and nose. The sounds of fighting still echoed around them. "Lao Tam, you coward! Hit him! You bastard!" The worker suddenly turned toward them with eyes glowing a terrifying red, lifeless and haunting. The staff member immediately rushed over to where Jiang Zi and the others were fighting, moving in a strange running posture. He hunched over as he ran, his arms flailing around like a puppet, and then let out a grunt. He ran straight up and bit into the shoulder of one of the long-haired thugs. The thug, suddenly bitten from behind, grimaced in pain and yelled out, "Ah, what the hell is that?" The girl in the red dress with blonde hair saw the horrifying scene and screamed loudly when she saw one of her team being bitten. The bite force was so strong it seemed like it could tear the flesh right off his shoulder. The long-haired thug, in excruciating pain, helplessly yelled, "Crazy dog, it hurts so much, help me shit." The guy who had been hiding in the corner all this time was starting to lose it. Seeing this, he panicked even more, clutching the back of his neck with both hands, his eyes wide open, and his mouth hanging open in silent terror as the struggle around him continued. "Ah, let me deal with these two bastards, you go help him." The staff member kept biting down on the long-haired thug's shoulder. Another person came to help the long-haired thug, grabbing the staff member's arm and pulling him off by the neck, but it still didn't work. The guy yelled, "Dan, why is this bastard so strong?" As soon as he finished speaking, the staff member let go of the long-haired thug, but he immediately turned and slapped the remaining thug hard on the arm. It was clear that the virus had already taken hold of him, turning his body into a lifeless zombie. The thug in the white shirt exclaimed, "Oh shit, he bit me too. He's really a crazy dog." The more they talked, the stronger the zombie became. It bit down hard as if it were tearing the flesh apart, then used its strength to throw the younger man down, slamming his back onto the floor. He was powerless to fight back, shouting loudly, "This guy is crazy. He's way too strong." In this dangerous moment, a hand suddenly appeared and grabbed the zombie by the throat. The man who did this was none other than Jiang Xiao Yong, the main character of this story. He effortlessly lifted the zombie, nearly frightened, as if it weighed nothing, his cold, hard face casting a shadow. Everyone around him stood frozen, pale-faced, and in shock. Jiang Xiao Yong was still full of energy, his eyes burning with intensity. Like a machine, he grabbed the zombie's neck, and with a simple twist, he spun the creature around. Bang! The TV screen shattered, the zombie's head smashing into the glass, its face sinking into the broken screen. Jiang Xiao Yong turned and, looking effortlessly cool, pointed at everyone and ordered, "Stop everything now!" The chaotic group, seeing his presence and power, realized they weren't in a position to argue and fell silent. The man who had just been bitten by the zombie stood up, clutching his injured arm, scowling as he thought to himself, "That crazy guy is so strong, but this kid took him down with just one hand." The arrogant boyfriend shouted loudly, his eyes wide as he screamed at Xiao Yong's face, "Who the hell are you?" Meanwhile, his friend, the one who'd been bitten on the shoulder, was slowly turning purple, the wound almost rotting. He scratched at it absently, but no one seemed to notice the strange condition of the injury. Not caring about the boyfriend who was in charge, Jiang Xiao Yong turned to Shan Shang and gently asked Jiang Zi, "Jiang Zi, are you bitten?" This was Jiang Zi's first time meeting Jiang Xiao Yong, and a stranger was now asking him a question. In the current situation, Jiang Zi felt a little cautious. Sitting between his two friends, he looked up with a wary expression and replied, "No, why?" Seeing that everything seemed fine, there was just the injury left to handle before getting Jiang Zi back to the base. Jiang Xiaoyong spoke seriously. "Follow me." Jiang Zi didn't think twice. He stood up quickly, but was stopped by the rude boyfriend who grabbed his shoulder. The guy glared and shouted loudly, "Wait, your business here isn't done yet. Where do you think you're going?" The long-haired thug, the boyfriend's closest associate, had been infected by the virus from the zombie earlier. He felt an unusual discomfort in his body. His eyes squeezed shut, his face twisted in pain, and he kept clutching his head, moaning, Boss, I can't take this headache." The boyfriend turned to Shan Shang, confused, and asked, "What's going on? Are you getting a worse fever?" Jiang Xiaoyong glanced at the long-haired thug. With his experience, he could tell immediately. His eyes grew focused, his expression hardening as he braced for what was coming. Looking at the wound on that person's shoulder, it looked like a black hole. The flesh around the bite was dark, and the skin surrounding it was bruised. That person showed signs of about to turn into a zombie. The guy, a subordinate, was lightly touching the bite mark. He winced in pain and said, "I just had a runny nose earlier this afternoon." Jiang Xiaoyong, still holding the zombie by its neck, had it pressed tightly against the TV screen, its arms thrashing around in resistance. Seeing this, he asked, "Did this person bite your shoulder?" By now, the skin around the long-haired guy's bite had turned purple and spread up to his head. Still not realizing what was happening, he scratched at the wound and answered absent-mindedly, "Oh yeah, that's right. What's going on?" Jiang Xiaoyong's face grew serious as he thought for a moment. According to what this person says, he was probably already infected earlier, and now, getting bitten so close to his head, he'll probably turn soon. Without saying another word, Jiang Xiaoyong grabbed the zombie by the neck and confidently walked toward the door. The group of bad guys watched as their leader yelled, "What are you doing?" Quickly, Jiang Xiaoyong opened the door and tossed the zombie out. It tumbled down the stairs with a loud crash. Boom! It sounded like throwing away a trash bag. Jiang Xiaoyong slammed the door shut with force. After a long pause, the zombie outside could only bang on the door, clawing and scratching at it. Jiang Xiaoyong let go of the door handle intentionally, but the zombie still couldn't get in. He thought to himself, luckily zombies don't have any intelligence yet. A little later, Jiang Xiaoyong turned to the group of people, clapped his hands loudly to get their attention. Jiang Xiaoyong was like a fireball, his eyes flashing with fierce energy, his fists crackling as he cracked his knuckles and said, "Jiang Zi, tell me, who do you want to kill first?" Jiang Zi, completely stunned, looked up and said, "What? Huh? Do we know each other?" The thug behind him, sensing something off, grimaced and then, still trying to intimidate, may have moved toward Xiaoyong. But this time, he picked the wrong person. The thug swung his hand and charged at Xiaoyong, shouting, "You little punk, you're getting too cocky." To Xiaoyong, the guy was nothing more than a mosquito. He crossed his arms, sneered in contempt, and with a cold expression, slapped his palm hard into the thug's face. The leader running toward them was suddenly knocked backward by the force of Xiaoyong's push. Xiaoyong kept gaining momentum, pressing the leader's head down and slamming it onto the table, shattering it into pieces. One of the long-haired lackeys, seeing how easily their leader was taken down, rushed in, yelling, "You little shit, you wanna die?" Xiaoyong was all about precision and speed. In one swift move, he landed a punch right to the guy's face, sending blood pouring from his nose as the thug fell backward, officially taking down both of them. Standing tall, Jiang Xiaoyong looked incredibly cool, his fist glowing with power. Suddenly, the underling began convulsing, foam foaming from his mouth, turning purple as it spread from the wound across his body. His teammates were in danger. One of them ran over to support him, panicked, and shouted, "Hey, what's happening to you? Seriously, are you having a seizure from just a punch?" Jiang Xiaoyong stood tall, raising his fist. In the middle of the room, alone, he radiated a terrifying energy. His presence was overwhelming as he challenged everyone, saying, "Anyone else have a problem? Anyone else wants to fight me? If you do, come at me." Then Jiang Xiaoyong gently rubbed his wrist, turned to Shan Shang Jiang Zi, and said, "Jiang Zi, take your friend and wait outside the room." Jiang Zi nodded in agreement. "Got it." In the blink of an eye, he was out of the karaoke room. Jiang Zi and his chubby friend were helping their bald friend out, moving slowly as they went. Inside the room, the guys group was also preparing to leave. One of them was supporting the underling who had been bitten by the zombie on the neck. He looked agonized, the wound already starting to rot more. The boyfriend led the way, frowning as he said, "Let's go." Just then, they ran into Jiang Xiaoyong, standing firmly in front of the door. His hands were clenched and his face had an eerie, almost demonic expression. Seeing him, the boyfriend gritted his teeth and growled, "What do you think you're doing?" His girlfriend in the red dress standing behind him was taken aback, clearly startled. Jiang Xiao Yong frowned and calmly repeated what this guy had done to Zhang Zi's group. "After drinking a little, you don't even remember your own last name, huh? You almost got my brother's kill here." The boyfriend, who had been acting so arrogant earlier, was no longer that way. He was visibly shaken, but still tried to shout. "What nonsense are you talking about? Get out of my way now." Without hesitation, Jiang Xiao Yong raised his hand and used a burst of energy to push the guy, sending him crashing to the ground. Caught off guard and knocked down, the guy cursed under his breath. Shit. Before the bad guys could react, Jiang Xiao Yong quickly slammed the door shut. The boyfriend, now furious, marched over and started banging on the door repeatedly, his voice shouting angrily, "God damn it, you bastard, open the door, I'll skin you alive." Meanwhile, no one was paying attention to the long-haired guy. Suddenly, his eyes turned bloodshot, his face twisted in a terrifying way, with veins bulging out, giving him a completely unrecognizable, sinister expression. He's no longer human. He let or roar like a wild animal, saliva dripping down in streams. His eyes bulged out as if they were about to explode. And then, like a puppet that had lost all control of its body, he shoved aside the two people who were trying to help him and lunged toward his boyfriend at lightning speed. It was as if he had turned into a crazed demon screaming, "Roarer!" The two others, witnessing this, were struck with horror and shouted, "Holy shit, what the hell are you doing?" On the other side of the door, Jiang Xiao Yong was holding the doorknob, ignoring the frantic yelling and cursing inside, along with the powerful pounding on the door. "Damn, son of a bitch, what the hell is wrong with you? Acting like a dog? Get the hell out. How's the bathroom door open like this? Ah, help me." Jiang Xiao Yong heard everything, but had no reaction. In fact, he paid close attention to every move and sound coming from inside. Perhaps the way life had treated him in his previous life had made him so cold and sharp now. Seeing that only Jiang Xiao Yong was standing outside the noisy room, a staff member approached, looking confused, and asked, "Sir, what happened? Do you need help?" Jiang Xiao Yong simply gave a decisive response, instructing him that there were zombies inside and that the door should be locked completely. No one was allowed to open it. He then called the police and the hospital, telling them that there was a patient inside having a rabies attack. The employee immediately became terrified, his head nodding repeatedly as he heard about the strange illness that's been spreading for the past few days. His words were unclear. Illness is the crazy flu. Seeing the employee's confused and sluggish attitude, Jiang Xiao Yong decided to act serious. He turned his face, widened his eyes, and shouted, "Hurry up!" This made the employee panic and obey right away. Even though there were horrifying screams coming from the other side of the door, Jiang Xiao Yong's words meant the employee had securely locked the door. Once everything was done, Jiang Xiao Yong waved his hand, signaling to Zhang Zi and the others behind him. "Let's go." Zhang Zi and his chubby friend were helping Shen Song, trusting Xiao Yong as they followed. Only the guy in the white shirt seemed unsettled, hesitating as he trailed behind. The employee who had just locked the door was even more confused when he heard the screams. He sighed, no way. This noise is way too loud." Another employee came over, seeing the look on his face, and asked, "What's going on? Why is it so chaotic?" The first employee pointed inside and quickly replied, "The guest earlier said someone inside has the crazy flu." The second employee was surprised. He raised both hands and said with a puzzled look, "Crazy flu? Is there really such a thing? This illness has just started, so when people hear about it, they're not sure whether to believe it or not." The first employee, holding the keys, asked, "Do you know about this?" Without hesitation, the two of them quickly ran off. The one in front kept running while turning his head to say, "I've heard of it. Let's go check the cameras." Both of them ran hard for a while and finally reached the camera monitoring room. The two staff members and the man overseeing the room were all completely terrified when they saw the footage from camera 3090. Everyone was in shock, their faces pale, covered in sweat, and no one could speak a word. The screen showed the scene of one of the men violently tearing the face off a woman in a red shirt. She was lying on the floor with her eyes bulging, staring up at the ceiling. Her boyfriend was rushing toward her, his mouth wide open, dripping with blood and looking horrific. They were eating her body, tearing off her skin and flesh, consuming her internal organs, devouring the weaker person piece by piece. One of the staff members shouted, "Call the police, quick." Outside the KTV karaoke, Jiang Xiao Yong stood by the car door waving his hand to hurry the others. "Come on, get in. We can't stay here any longer." The group of Jiang Zai had just made it to the front door. A few minutes later, once everything settled, Jiang Xiao Yong sped off down the main road. Jiang Xiao sat in a front seat next to Xiao Yong, looking quite worried. He turned around to Xiao Yong and asked, "Big brother, thanks for helping us out." Jiang Xiao Yong didn't want to go into any unnecessary explanations. While driving, he quickly made up a reason so that Jiang Xi's brute would be able to follow him back to the base. "I'm Jiang Xiao Yong. I was hired to protect you guys, and don't ask who my employer is." The most timid of the group couldn't believe what had just happened to them. He hesitantly asked Jiang Xiao Yong about the mad flu. "Hey, is this mad flu you're talking about real? I saw online that the rumors were debunked, and they said the mad flu doesn't even exist." Jiang Xiao Yong turned his face back and answered confidently, "So everything that happened in that room just now was all an illusion." The young man with a big belly and glasses seemed unsure. He bent forward, looking worried, and asked, "Does that mean the mad flu has a cure?" At this question, Xiao Yong fell silent for a moment. Then, after steadying himself, he glanced at the mirror and softly replied, "This disaster won't go away. It's only going to get worse. The world has already reached its end." After driving for a while, all four of them in the car jumped in surprise when they heard a loud scream from the street. It was the shrill cry of a woman. Instinctively, everyone in the car looked toward Shan Shang. They saw a person infected with the disease with a pale face like a corpse, rushing crazily toward an innocent girl walking down the street. The girl was completely pinned down, unable to do anything but scream, "Help! Hey, what are you doing?" That's the mad flu. Every scream, every desperate cry for help, and the terror were all flooding the street. Jiang Xiao Yong realized the situation was getting too serious. He turned his face back to focus on driving and said seriously, "The current situation is just a small, localized outbreak. Most people are still in the incubation period. It won't be long before a large area goes out of control. So if you want to survive from now on, you have to listen to me." The whole team of mechanics replied in unison, "Understood, Captain Jiang." At that moment, the system interface appeared. The old partner task was completed, earning 20 system points. His current total was now 20. Surprised by how quickly the task had been finished, Xiao Yong thought to himself, "Oh, it's done already? That's lucky." I noticed there were a few new items in the shop earlier. The shop interface then displayed 3 items. The first was a level 1 farmer supply chest for the apocalypse, costing 2 points. The second was a level 1 supply chest with roads, oil, and protein, costing 5 points. The third was a level 1 threat weapon supply chest, also costing 5 points. Jiang Xiaoyong frowned, confused. Why is this apocalypse farmer chest still here? He realized that if he wanted to see something new, he'd have to buy it. Looks like he'd have to spend some points to get a new item. While driving, he kept scrolling through the system board. Xiao Yong was really focused on the system store. He scrolled for a while and thought, these boxes seem useful and aren't expensive. When we get back to the fortress later, I'll trade all of these. With that thought, Jiang Xiaoyong glanced at Shan Shang, quickly furrowing his brows as he looked at Jiang Zi and the 3 friends sitting quietly in the backseat, following him back. He signaled his wariness. There was still another tricky issue to deal with. Xiao Yong remembered the first time Jiang Zi had met him, crying because a friend had betrayed him, causing the whole team to fall apart. It's a waste we still saw him as a brother, Xiao Yong thought to himself. At this moment, in Jiang Xiaoyong's mind, he recalled that Jiang Zi had been betrayed by a brother in the dorm, leading to the deaths of many others in a zombie attack. Only Jiang Zi was lucky enough to save half of his life. So, who was the one responsible for killing all those people? Knowing that 3 of Jiang Zi's friends were sitting in the back of the car, Xiao Yong was sure one of them had bad intentions, but that person hadn't revealed themselves yet. Everyone seemed suspicious. He thought to himself, who is it? That night, in the high-rise building where Kui Jing lived, she was inside her apartment, talking to Lai Shuxiang, darling. Standing by the window looking out at the sea, her face appeared noticeably pale, with clear signs of worry. She glanced outside and then spoke. When will the supplies be delivered? It's chaos out there right now. I really don't feel safe going to the supermarket alone. On the other end of the line, a calm voice responded, it'll be there soon, babe. Once the paperwork is done, I'll send it over to you right away. Suddenly, a loud knocking on the door startled her. She jumped and screamed, ah, ah. Lai Shuxiang, on the other end of the line, heard the commotion and urgently asked, what's happening, babe? Kui Jing took a moment to compose herself, slowly walking toward the door. She placed her hand on her chest, still shaken, and replied, someone's knocking. I'm going to hang up now. After ending the call, she peeked through the small peephole in the door. When she recognized her close friend, she let out a relieved sigh and opened the door. You, why did you knock so loudly? She asked. Her friend entered cautiously, looking around the room. She quickly shared some alarming news. Liu from the first floor was taken away this morning. Kui Jing's close friend quickly slammed the door shut. When she heard that someone she saw every morning had been taken away, she was shocked. What, they took him? Why did they take him? Her friend quickly responded, it was a police car and an ambulance that took him away together. Upon hearing that, Kuai-jing immediately stroked her chin. Looking deep in thought, I was wondering why there was such a commotion downstairs this morning. Her friend said seriously, looks like that warning about the crazy flu wasn't just a warning, huh? Then she quickly added, by the way, did you bring over the supplies Lai Shuxiang said he'd send you? Kuai-jing picked up her phone, looking disappointed. Not yet. Hearing that, her friend's attitude changed immediately. She cursed Lai Shuxiang under her breath. Dan, I told you, there's not a single good man out there. One minute they hate you, the next they're trying to take advantage of you. This person had a plan for Kuai-jing to contact him. Here's what you should do. Listen to me, call him. Tell him Xiao Yong has a ton of supplies that could help him make a lot of money during this epidemic. At this moment, Kuai-jing gave a puzzled look and asked, is that really true? How did you know that? Her best friend crossed her arms and explained everything. The last time we went to Jiang Xiao Yong's house, he kicked us out. So I sent a dog to follow him and keep an eye on him. Turns out the dog noticed that several times shipments of supplies were going into his unfinished factory and getting unloaded. Kuai-jing clenched her teeth in annoyance and said, could it be that this kid knew about the outbreak in advance? Her best friend continued, Lai Shuxiang didn't have time to pay attention to any of this. She's really a snake in human form. First, she tried to get close to Xiao Yong, and now, when things are tough, she wants to steal someone else's property. She looked up, her face serious, as if urging Kuai-jing to follow her advice. Listen to me, call her now. The sooner the better. Once we make some money, tell Lai Shuxiang to give us 2 shares. Finally, Xiao Yong and Jiang Zi's group arrived at his base. Everyone slowly got off the vehicle. Jiang Zi looked around, surprised. Wow, this place is pretty impressive. It's like a fortress. Jiang Xiao Yong turned to look at Shan Shang and smiled confidently and replied, it's true. Everyone's first reaction is always different. Old Han and Shan Shan heard the noise and stepped out as well. Lao Han smiled with a hint of joy. Xiao Yong, you're finally back. Shan Shan, standing next to him, quietly asked, are you okay? Jiang Xiao Yong smiled happily and replied, don't worry, Lao Han, Shan Shan. Let me introduce you to our new team members. He then turned to Shan Shan, noticing the team. Quickly, he raised his hand to introduce them. This is Jiang Zi and his classmates. From now on, they'll be our companions. Jiang Zi waved enthusiastically at them. Xiao Yong continued the introduction. These two are Lao Han and Shan Shan. Shan Shan smiled warmly and said, if they're the companions chosen by Xiao Yong, then we welcome them. Jiang Xiao Yong then turned to Lao Han and asked, Lao Han, could you please show them around the campus and brief them on the rules and information? Lao Han, holding a gun, nodded and replied, don't worry, I got it covered. The chubby young man looked a little confused. He turned to his friends and said, feels like we've arrived in northern Myanmar or something. Suddenly, the shy young man raised his hand. That's... He just spoke, pointing his finger towards himself. Can you send us some weapons? We can also help protect this place. When Jiang Xiao Yong heard this, his expression quickly changed. He glanced at the person who spoke. The chubby kid with glasses, hearing this, leaned over and whispered, Ai Ming, don't ask for weapons so soon. We just got here. We need to earn their trust first. Jiang Xiao Yong understood their point and reassured them, don't worry, in a few days, I'll give you the weapons. Then he shifted the conversation and looked at the young man being supported by the chubby kid with glasses. Oh, right, the young man's injury was pretty serious. He should be checked out in the medical room first. A little later, in Xiao Yong's bathroom, Jiang Zi's group was cleaning up after a chaotic day. The chubby guy was wiping his head, sighing, this feels so good. Ye Ming, who had been upset the whole time, scolded the chubby guy, Su, why did you stop me earlier? Su was surprised. I said, Ye Ming continued, if you hadn't stopped me, maybe you would have given us the weapons. Lai Ming was getting more and more worked up. He pointed to the ground and said loudly, to put it mildly, we're being protected right now. To put it bluntly, we're being held here, trapped in his house. Why wasn't it like this back at the karaoke bar? Now, all of a sudden, you've got so much to say. Shu, equally confused, quietly tried to calm Yi Ming down. How can you say that? He just saved us back there. Yang Ming turned to Jiang Zi and asked, what's his background? Why did he save us? Jiang Zi glanced back and replied, didn't he say someone hired him to protect us? Lai Ming, still wary, asked, did anyone actually hire him? Did he say who it was? Who knows if he's telling the truth or not? Yang Ming spoke through gritted teeth, clearly frustrated. His tone was completely different from the nervousness he had shown earlier. And look at how he treated Chen Song. He said he'd take him to the infirmary to monitor his condition, but the doors and windows are stronger than those in a prison. Thinking about how poorly they were treating Shen Song made him even angrier. Who knows? They might even end up cutting him open in there. We need to act first before it's too late. Su, not convinced, replied, but if we accuse him wrongly, wouldn't that be repaying kindness with betrayal? Lai Ming remained determined. He pointed at himself and said, I, Yai Ming, would rather betray the world than let myself be betrayed. If what that guy Xiao Yang said is true, we'll take control of this fort and seize the initiative. He grinned slyly and continued, aside from us and Xiaoyang, there's only an old man and a girl here. All we need to do is wait for Xiaoyang to leave, then we can grab them. The girl isn't bad looking, we could head. Just the thought of it made him excited. He figured everyone else must think like him and that they'd all go along with it. But both Su and Jiang Zi froze, unsure of what to say. For a moment, there was an awkward silence. Seeing this, Yang Ming quickly waved his hand and chuckled. Hey, all right. I was just joking with you guys. Don't take it seriously. Jiang Zi sighed in relief, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Ah, Yang Ming, don't scare me like that. It's not the apocalypse yet, you know. You're acting like you're above the law. Su, standing behind, added exactly. If he really wanted to gut us, he could have locked us up by now. After all, he's got a gun. The moment the water stopped flowing from the shower head, the conversation came to an end. Watching the two figures in front of him, Yang Ming smirked, his expression cold and scheming. Huh, those useless brats. In times like these, you have to be ruthless. Once I'm in power, I'll make you both my personal donkeys for the rest of your lives. Cut to inside Jiang Xiao Yong's room. He was sitting straight on the sofa, and Shan Shan and Old Han slowly made their way toward him. Old Han began reporting on the situation with Jiang Zi and the others. He spoke calmly. Xiao Yang, Jiang Zi, and the others have settled in. The kid who was more seriously injured, named Chen Song, is currently lying in the clinic. I've done exactly as you asked, closed all the windows tight. Jiang Xiao Yang was pleased. He leaned forward slightly to show his respect to Old Han and then spoke. Thank you for your hard work. Jiang Xiao Yang cheerfully reminded the two of them. Smiling at Old Han, he said, Old Han, you and Shan Shan should get some rest. Tomorrow, we might have some visitors. It seemed like something suddenly crossed his mind. Jiang Xiao Yang raised a finger and said aloud, all right. Old Han froze at the sound of that. Jiang Xiao Yang then carefully reminded both of them about Jiang Zi's friends. Except for Shen Song, there were two other classmates around Jiang Zi. He had to be extremely careful with them. I have a feeling that in the next few days, someone might try to rebel. Upon hearing this, both Old Han and Shan Shan's faces grew seriously worried. In the quiet night at the supplies warehouse, Jiang Xiao Yang slowly walked inside by himself. Xiao Yang opened the system interface to check and began to investigate. The chests in the trading city caught his eye. He reached out to touch the first chest, and two information panels popped up, emitting a bright light. The Apocalypse Farming Supply Box has been successfully exchanged, 2 points deducted. Current points, 18. Oil and Protein Supply Box exchanged successfully, 5 points deducted. Current points, 13. Arms Supply Box exchanged successfully, 5 points deducted. Current points, 8. Returning to the shop interface, 3 more chests appeared. The contents were quite similar to the first 3, though the rewards in each had changed. The first chest contained 50 corn seeds. The second chest held 200 kilograms of starch sausages, 100 kilograms of salted pork, and pre-processed vegetables. The third chest had 1,509 millimeters bullets. After some time spent choosing and purchasing items, Jiang Xiao Yang received his reward from the pile of crates he had bought. The supplies inside were stacked high, shining with a golden light like treasures of gold and silver. Jiang Xiao Yang felt a brief sense of satisfaction. Head, this reward in the box is pretty good. Even though it can't compare to the way I used to spend money in the coming apocalypse, resources will be extremely scarce. This reward is basically a jackpot. The next morning, the sky was clear and blue, with white clouds floating peacefully. An absolutely beautiful day. On the road, 3 cars sped by at an astonishing speed. From the fort above, the cars seemed to be moving unusually fast, almost unnaturally so. When they reached the forest area, the 3 cars came to a stop. A man's voice could be heard shouting to someone else. Yep, I found it. The address is definitely right. As he stepped out, a group of thugs appeared, each of them with a fierce look on their face. They all carried long swords on their shoulders, and a few of them were holding knives. Their mouths were full of curse words, creating a lot of noise. Leading the group was a man in a suit, talking on the phone with someone. Okay, when we get back, let's grab a meal together. The rich guy who caused trouble with Xiao Elm on the highway earlier pointed his finger and shouted, right here, tear it apart for me. His tough-looking henchmen, all scowling, moved forward. Following their leader's orders, they immediately began pounding relentlessly on the metal door under the watchful eye of the rich man in charge. They kicked and hammered it for a while, but the door didn't even budge. One of the henchmen nervously turned around to report to the rich guy, "Boss, this door is 10 centimeters thick. With just the few of us here, we won't be able to break it down." Hearing that, the leader gritted his teeth in frustration, clenched his fists, and cursed, "Damn it, who the hell uses a door like this?" Then he ordered his men, "Get the stuff out." At his command, the henchmen opened the back of the car. Struggling a bit, they pulled out a large box from the trunk. Inside were bottles that looked like foreign liquor bottles, but they had no labels. The caps were red. In reality, these bottles were Molotov cocktails disguised as alcohol to avoid detection by the police. These bastards lit Molotov cocktails and threw them straight into the base. One bottle, two bottles, then many more. Almost immediately, flames erupted. Everywhere the Molotov cocktails caught fire, burning fiercely. Before long, the inside of Jiang Xiao Yong's base seemed to be drowning in a sea of flames, with the terrible, toxic smoke making it even worse. The fire from the Molotovs that had been thrown over the base's gate burned uncontrollably. Shan Shan and Jiang Zi's group rushed out of the house in a hurry. She was the first to run out with a bucket of water. Behind her, Zhang Zi carried a fire extinguisher, his big belly bouncing as he moved, with Lai Ming, the young guy, following closely behind. Each person carried a bucket of water. Shan Shan shouted, "It's on fire." At that moment, she realized that Xiao Yong's advice was spot on. She quickly threw the water with all her strength, saying Xiao Yong was right after all. Even before the full-scale disaster hit, extreme situations were already unfolding. Jiang Xiao Yong, with a grim expression, had his hand on his gun. The general appeared alongside Old Han. Standing at the observation deck, Jiang Xiao Yong angrily said, "Let me go see who's asking for trouble." With that, the two of them made their way up to the top of the deck, where they looked down at a few cars belonging to the group that had come to cause trouble for the local girls. Old Han took a good look for a moment and recognized someone. There were a few cars as well, and suddenly it clicked. This was the group that had argued with them earlier on the highway. Without thinking, Old Han muttered, "Ah, it's the guy we argued with on the freeway." Down below, one of the people in the group suddenly looked up. Recognizing the two of them at the observation deck, he quickly reported to the leader, "Boss, they're here." The leader gritted his teeth in fury. He clenched his fist, lowered his voice, and said, "It's him, that damn bastard." Immediately, the man pointed his finger up at them and yelled, "You bastard, come down here right now, or I'll turn you into a pile of ashes." Jiang Xiao Yong wasn't having any of it. From above, he calmly warned, "You got 5 minutes to get your filthy asses out of here." The group below was now completely enraged. They all started shouting even louder, both in words and actions. One of them screamed, "Ah, you bastard, what did you say? Don't you know who our boss is?" In this situation, the system suddenly beeped, signaling the release of a new mission. This caught Jiang Xiao Yong's attention, and he focused intently on the message that appeared on the screen. The system displayed a new mission, which involved a typical threat. The task was simple. The fortress was under attack, and they were asked to eliminate the threat as soon as possible, with a reward of 10 points. At this moment, Old Han, who was standing next to him, anxiously asked, "Xiao Yong, what should we do now? Do we need to fire a warning shot?" Jiang Xiao Yong coldly grabbed his gun and raised it. The sound of the gun being cocked echoed, and the sights were now aimed directly at the group of troublemakers. He cautiously replied, "A warning shot? These people look like a bunch of lawless gangsters. The order hasn't even completely collapsed yet, and they're already setting fires. They don't care at all about the fact that someone could get burned alive." He crouched down to get into shooting position, squinted one eye, and as he aimed, he continued, "All it takes is one pull of the trigger. Letting these scumbags survive until the end of the world will only put more innocent people at risk and threaten our safety too." Old Han, standing beside him, was stunned by the ruthless look in Xiao Yong's eyes, his face filled with fear. Without hesitation, he pulled the trigger and the shot fired quickly with a sharp sound. In an instant, the leader's hand was severed and flew off at a distance. The man barely had time to process what had happened, only hearing a loud bang before he collapsed, clutching the arm that had been shot. He knelt, screaming in pain and terror. "Ah, my hand! Ah! Ha!" The others behind him were terrified, covering their heads and crouching down. Jiang Xiao Yong, however, remained unfazed, his gun still smoking from the hot barrel. He seemed almost disappointed. "Oh, I missed. I've been living too peacefully for too long. Even my marksmanship has gotten rusty." Meanwhile, the ones below, still unaware of what was happening, shouted curses up at him. "Holy shit, he's got a gun and a rifle, no less." Now realizing the danger, they panicked and ran for their lives, scrambling toward their cars. The leader, clutching his arm, was the first to take off, shouting orders to his men. "Get in, cover me, you bastards! Just wait, I'll get you for this! Hurry up!" One of his underlings followed, shouting desperately. "Boss." Jiang Xiao Yong continued to aim carefully at his target once again. He spoke calmly, saying a few words. "Let's finish today's business today. I hate waiting." With that, gunshots rang out, hitting various parts of the body, hands, legs, neck, chest, and even piercing through the foreheads of the arrogant people. A few of his men, struggling to stay upright, barely managed to scramble for cover on the backseat of a car. One of them, panicked and scared, shouted at another man, "Start the engine, drive, hurry up." Just a moment ago, he had been carrying a gun, but seeing that he wasn't needed, Old Han leaned his hand on the car door. He bent down and said, "They're trying to start the car and run." Jiang Xiao Yong remained unfazed. While reloading, he simply replied, "Don't worry, that's exactly why I have an automatic rifle." The gunfire kept raining down on their car as it rapidly reversed. Jiang Xiao Yong's shooting became more and more intense. He reloaded expertly, firing one round after another. Even Old Han, standing beside him, began to question his confidence. He could never have imagined it, silently thinking to himself, "The way he's handling the gun and reloading so smoothly, it's just like how I used to do when I was in the army. Who exactly is this kid?" From a distance, a smoke from the Jiang Xiao Yong's base filled the air, spreading across a wide area. Eventually, the chaos was cleared up, and all that was left was the sound of people sighing in relief after the battle. On the road in front of the fortress, there were corpses scattered everywhere. Along with the heavily damaged vehicle, every single piece of glass from the car was shattered. After finishing his mission, Jiang Xiao Yong went back inside. He told Old Han, "Go get Jiang Zi and his friends, and Shan Shan too. We're going to push out and clear the area." Seeing Xiao Yong's intense expression, Old Han froze, staring at him. Suddenly, he realized something and paused for a few seconds, his gaze sharpening. "Wait a second." Jiang Xiao Yong thought to himself, "We're still in the early stages of the disaster. It's better to let these people turn into zombies and then use them for training with Jiang Zi and Shan Shan." The bodies were scattered in front of the base, but Jiang Xiao Yong didn't seem to care. He simply said to Old Han, "Forget it. Let's not rush." Old Han, confused, asked, "What about the ones out there? Are we just going to leave them on the road like that?" Jiang Xiao Yong responded in a low voice, "Yes, leave them there. I'll put them to use later." On the highway leading to Jiang Xiao Yong's base, two white cars were speeding along. Inside one of the cars, Lai Shuxiang frowned in irritation and asked, "Are we almost there?" Seeing him frown, Kuijing's best friend, Shan Shang, teased him with a playful tone, trying to sound cute. "It's just at the next intersection." Kuijing, sitting next to her, stared out the window, her arms crossed, deep in thought. She then glanced at Shan Shang and thought to herself, "Huff, when Lai Shuxiang is around, she acts all sweet. Does she think I don't see through her little game?" The car stopped in front of the base. Lai Shuxiang's voice spoke to Kuijing with warmth. "I'll park here and wait. Sweetheart, just text me when you get inside." Kuijing nodded and replied, "Mem." She then glanced at her best friend sitting inside the car and called out, "Xiao Ya, let's go." Xiao Ya, looking unsettled, asked in confusion, "Huh? I'm coming too?" Kuijing's expression turned serious as she firmly said, "Nonsense. How else would I know which factory it is if you don't come with me?" Xiao Ya closed her eyes and chuckled, playfully whining, "Haha. You can figure it out just by heading straight. Besides, walking in these shoes to 2 intersections is already exhausting." Knowing Xiao Ya's plan was to try to be alone with Lai Shuxiang while she wasn't around, Kuijing immediately grabbed Xiao Ya's hand and insisted, "Stop making excuses. Who told you to wear high heels? Quit talking nonsense and come with me." Xiao Ye tried to resist, adding, "Wait, my phone's still in the car." Kuijing wasn't having it and urged, "Leave it in there. I've got a phone in my bag. That's all we need." Eventually, Xiao Ye agreed to go along with Kuijing. The two girls slowly walked forward while Lai Shuxiang sat at the wheel. After observing them, he made a phone call to some people. "Hey, tell everyone to get ready. Once my car starts moving, you all need to rush in together, okay?" Following this, Lai Shuxiang's car was one that was waiting for his orders. Inside the car were nearly a dozen tough-looking mafia members, and one of them was holding a knife. The person in the front receiving orders spoke into the radio. "Got it?" Kuijing walked ahead with Xiao Ye trailing behind. Xiao Ye kept grumbling, Kuijing? Seriously, why do you always have to drag me along like this?" Kuijing replied, clearly annoyed, "Oh, we're both old pros here. You think you're clever enough to trick me?" Xiao Ye purposely walked closer, trying to stick to Kuijing. She put on a fake innocent face and sweetly said, Ah, you're being too harsh. The way I'm dressed like this just makes it easier to lure Jiang Xiao Yong outright. Besides, he already knows about you and Lai Shuxian. Kuai looked ahead, feeling a bit suspicious. She asked, "What's going on up ahead?" Xiao Ye gasped, her eyes wide. Ha. As they got closer, the two women encountered the remnants of the war. Xiao Ye couldn't help but exclaim in shock, "Oh my god, what's going on here? Are they shooting at each other?" As they walked past each body, Kuai got closer to the fortifications, forced to pass by several of the corpses. The two girls leaned on each other, walking cautiously, clearly frightened. Xiao Ye stammered, Kuai Jing? These people are all dead." Kuai was just as shaken. She looked at the bloodstains and guessed that the people must have died recently. Could it be that both groups were fighting over Jiang Xiao Yong's supplies? From inside the broken-down vehicle, they could see the two girls walking by, and it made them nervous. Xiao Ye began to speculate, is Jiang Xiao Yong really in such bad shape? Kuai, more focused on the supplies, replied, "Jiang Xiao Yong's death doesn't matter, but I wonder if he still has the supplies." Xiao Ye hesitated, then suggested, "Maybe we should go back and let Lai Shuxian and the others take a look." Kuai quickly responded, "Calm down, let's keep our voices down. Let's go check if the workshop's door is locked. We don't want to get caught up in any schemes." But what neither of them knew was that the body of the leader, whose arm had been shot off, was still slightly moving. It was possible that this person had been infected earlier and had now fully turned into a zombie. Hearing sounds, his eyes darted toward Kuai and Xiao Ye, his wide eyes bloodshot with veins bulging. He kept making strange, raspy noises. At that moment, Kuai and Xiao Ye had reached the base's gate. Xiao Ye quickly ran up and felt around the gate, while Kuai slowly followed behind. Xiao Ye knocked on it a few times. After inspecting it for a bit, she muttered angrily, "Damn, this door is so tight. We can't even see what's happening inside." She kept knocking and banging on the door, but it was no use. The door was securely shut. Kuai glanced sideways at Shan Shang, thinking aloud, "Do you think something happened to Jiang Xiao Yong?" Just then, a loud voice echoed from above. The two girls immediately looked up in surprise, instinctively reacting. It was Shan Shan. She cautiously raised her gun and aimed it at the two girls below, asking loudly, "Who are you? How do you know about this place?" Xiao Ye stood outside and called up, "Haha, hey there, we're friends of Xiao Yang." Kuai, standing next to her, added, "I'm Xiao Yang's girlfriend." When Shan Shan heard this, she turned back inside, still not trusting the two of them. She stayed on alert and called out loudly, "Xiao Yang, there are two girls outside. One of them claims to be your girlfriend." Mentioning Xiao Yang made Kuai grit her teeth in frustration. She snapped angrily, "I knew that bastard Xiao Yang had suddenly changed his attitude for some reason, probably found himself a new girlfriend." Seeing the tension, Xiao Ye turned to Shan Shan and Kuai, speaking softly, "Kuai, don't show any signs of annoyance. The main thing is still the mission, and don't forget, there's a woman up there with a crossbow. Can Lai Shuxiang deal with her?" Kuai face tightened with anger. Betraying others is fine, but when she sees another woman next to Xiao Yang, that's when she gets possessive. She gritted her teeth, her voice low with frustration. "Don't worry, he's got a few pistols. As long as we can open the door, he'll be able to take down Jiang Xiao Yang." Standing on the observation platform, Jiang Xiao Yang walked out from inside. He looked down, and as soon as he saw the two of them, his expression immediately changed. Disgust was clear on his face as he said, "Kuai Xiao Ye, what are you two doing here?" With a sharp glance, he quickly activated his spiritual eye ability to see the true emotions of these two women who like to rely on others. Through his keen perception, he could tell that both Kuai and Xiao Ye were annoyed and angry, but only Kuai showed it openly. She crossed her arms and fell silent, clearly displeased. Xiao Ye, feeling intimidated by his aura, pretended to act crazy and started to flatter him. "Haha, hey, Xiao Yang, we're friends, right? We just came to visit you. Things are crazy right now, and we were worried about you. Aren't you concerned about us too?" Hearing her fake words, Jiang Xiao Yang laughed out loud. He sneered and spoke down to them with clear disdain. "Worried about me? Haha, I'm guessing that scumbag Lai Shuxiang is nearby, right? And he's probably got a bunch of people carrying weapons with him. Am I wrong?" It felt like a direct hit to the heart. Both girls were so shocked they stood there with their mouths hanging open, speechless. Inside, they were fuming, thinking to themselves, how does he know? Without giving them a chance to react, gunshots rang out from above, forcing both of them to scramble and dodge. Unable to hold back, Kuai screamed, cursing at him, "Jiang Xiao Yang, are you insane? You're actually shooting at me." But he just stared at them coldly, with a look full of indifference and disgust. Holding the gun, he aimed it straight down. Kuai Jing kept angrily cursing Jiang Xiao Yong. Xiao Ye froze for a moment. She turned to her friend, scowling, and shouted, Kuai Jing, shut up. He's got a gun. You need to calm down. Don't provoke him. But Kuai Jing responded arrogantly, What's there to be afraid of? Do you think he'll really shoot me? Hearing this, Jiang Xiao Yong let out a dark chuckle, clearly amused. Ha ha, shooting you? That'd be a favor to both of you. Just after his words, an eerie sound suddenly echoed from nearby. Both Kuai Jing and Xiao Ye slowly turned, their hearts pounding in suspense. When they saw what was in front of them, terror struck them both. Kuai Jing screamed in fear. What? What is that? Is it a crazy flu patient? The bodies of the people they'd seen shot earlier suddenly sat up, as if coming back to life. Only now, they were even more horrifying. Their eyes were bloodshot, and their skin had turned deathly pale. Xiao Ye's voice shook as she said, The crazy flu. It can bring people back to life. Witnessing this scene, all the frustration and anger inside Jiang Xiao Yong seemed to explode. His eyes were filled with an eerie, almost supernatural rage, and a dark, menacing aura surrounded him. He then yelled a brutal command at the two women who were shouting, I want you to die in their mouths. At that moment, the creatures began to howl terribly, echoing through the vast space like starving beasts. The smell of human flesh drove them wild, and they charged forward with their mouths wide open. They were horrifying to look at as they leaped toward where Kuai Jing and Xiao Ye were standing. Luckily, the two women managed to dodge them in time. The creatures missed, crashing into each other and falling headfirst to the ground. Having escaped one danger, they kept running, screaming desperately. Ah, Lai Shuxiang, help us. Lai Shuxiang was inside the car, unable to see anything because he was too far away. He frowned and snorted in frustration. Meanwhile, Kuai Jing and Xiao Ye ran for their lives, the zombies relentlessly chasing them like bloodthirsty animals. Kuai Jing couldn't keep up with Xiao Ye, and as she ran, she shouted loudly, Help me, Xiao Ye, help me. But Xiao Ye, tears streaming down her face, kept running and didn't look back. In the chaos, they both seemed to lose hope. When they got close to Lai Shuxiang's car, he leaned out of the window and, seeing the horde of zombies closing in, exclaimed in horror, Holy shit, why are there crazy flu-infected people here? Immediately, he pulled himself into the car. He quickly shouted into the walkie-talkie in his hand, turn around fast, there's someone with the crazy flu. Turn around quick. Seeing the zombies, he didn't hesitate and abandoned the two useless women. He was never a good person. He'd been using them from the start just to get a little bit of pleasure. Kuai Jing, completely frustrated, saw Lai Shuxiang turning the car and realized he was about to leave her behind. She cursed loudly. Lai Shuxiang, you bastard, you jerk. The car turned around quickly and she trembled with fear. Behind her, the zombies were getting closer. Kuai Jing's eyes filled with tears and she screamed at the top of her lungs. I don't want to die here. As she screamed, she threw her bag towards Xiao Ye, who was running ahead. While tossing it, Kuai Jing cursed Xiao Ye under her breath. That bitch. But unexpectedly, the strap of the bag wrapped around Xiao Ye's ankle as she ran. Just like that, Xiao Ye tripped and slammed to the ground. The pain was so intense, she screamed, Ah! Ah! The zombies rushed toward her at lightning speed, each of them brawling loudly. They reached out with their hands, trying to grab Xiao Ye. Terrified by what was about to happen, Xiao Ye's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. She could only manage a few words. Wait a minute. The zombies opened their terrifying mouths wide, their eyes bulging, showing only whites of their eyes. These people dove in deeply, tearing at her flesh piece by piece. She was tortured this way until the end of her life. Blood splattered everywhere as they scratched and shredded her, leaving her helpless. Her eyes bulged and turned red, tears filling the corners of her eyes. In them, you could see pure hatred as she screamed, Ah, 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 you bastard. Kuai Jing didn't care. She ran forward, head down, not looking back. Behind Xiao Ye, the zombies had a feast waiting for them. Even in her final breath, Xiao Ye continued to curse Kuai Jing, You bitch, ah, ah, you won't die peacefully, ah. Kuai Jing smirked, a twisted smile on her face, both terrified and muttering, She deserves it. She deserved to die. Seeing how Kuai Jing had managed to escape, Jiang Xiao Yong stood nearby, still not fully satisfied with the deaths of these two women. Shan Shan, standing next to him, covered her mouth with her hand, trembling in fear at the horrific scene. At that moment, a notification from the system popped up. The task to eliminate the threat was complete. The system added 10 points to the total, bringing the current score to 18. Soon after, another notification appeared for Xiaoyang. A new mission was assigned. The new mission is to clean up the streets. The task requires eliminating the infected people and monsters outside the base. Progress, 0%. The reward for completing the task is 10 accumulated points. Shan covered her mouth with her hand and asked Xiao, puzzled, do those people just suddenly turn into zombies like that? Jiang Xiao Yong turned to explain in detail so Shan would understand. Right now, we're officially entering the apocalypse. The air is filled with a massive amount of infectious particles from another world. After the dead come into contact with the outside, they quickly transform into zombies. Even living people who are injured or have weak immune systems have a high chance of turning. Shan's eyes widened in shock, and she replied with a hint of disbelief, so that's how it is. Once the conversation was over, he decisively walked inside and instructed Shan, call everyone together. We need to have a meeting. Shan was taken aback, but after a moment, she followed Xiao Dong's instructions and gathered everyone in a room where they sat around a table. She carefully locked the door. Jiang Xiao Yong observed them for a while before speaking seriously. In the next 2 days, unless it's absolutely necessary, try to stay in the room and keep the windows shut. This will help your body gradually adjust to the infectious air. It can significantly lower the risk of turning into one of them. Understanding the cause of the outbreak, Zhang Zi frowned, his face full of worry for his friend. He hesitated, stammering that Chen Song. The scene shifts to the infirmary, where Chen Song lies in a small room. The air is eerily still, and the room is cloaked in darkness because all the windows are tightly shut. A strange sign appears on Chen Song's hand. His veins begin to bulge, turning dark purple, a clear sign that he's on the verge of transforming into a zombie. His face contorts with pain as he frowns, still unconscious but sweating profusely. His veins and blood vessels become more visible across his face. Could there be a zombie outbreak happening in Jiang Xiao Yong's base? In the city center, chaos erupts in the building where Zhang Chengji lives. Thick black smoke pours from the windows of several apartments. It seems like the entire building has been taken over by zombies. Down below, strong, healthy young men hurry to scale the walls and escape. Zhang Chengji is still in his high-rise apartment. Looking out the window with a worried expression, he says, "It's too chaotic outside." He then turns to his wife and son, who are anxiously holding each other. "Tonight, I need to go to the warehouse to move the remaining supplies. Xiao Lai, you and our son stay home and wait for me. Don't open the door to anyone except me, understand?" Things are getting more and more tense. Suddenly, a loud banging on the door from outside made Zhang Chengji jump, spinning around in fear. His wife and child clung tightly to each other, terrified. The knocking grew louder and more frantic, and they were about to ignore it, but Zhang Chengji hesitated. He had no idea who it could be. He silently lifted a finger to his lips, signaling for his wife and child to stay quiet. Then he quietly crouched down and grabbed a golf club from the corner of the room. Holding the club with one hand, he slowly turned the doorknob with the other. Just then, a voice called out from outside, "Zhang, are you home?" Hearing the familiar voice, Zhang Chengji instantly felt a wave of relief. He opened the door, letting out a long breath, and said, "Oh, it's you, Yang Dao. In times like these, even if we know each other, we should still be careful." Zhang Chengji shut the door quickly, ready to lock it from the inside. But before he could, a strong kick slammed into the door, striking him in the stomach. The force knocked him to the floor in pain. Ah! Immediately, a group of thugs rushed in, pinning Zhang Chengji face down on the floor. Yang Dao calmly stepped in last. At that moment, Zhang Chengji realized that Yang Dao had turned on him, bringing a gang of followers to overthrow him. Yang Dao stepped closer, glaring down with a look of disdain. Zhang Chengji, gritting his teeth, shouted, "Let me go!" He jerked his neck back, shot an angry glare, and yelled at Yang Dao's face. "Yang Dao Dan, what's your problem? I've had nothing but good to that Dan dog of yours." Yang Dao, his lips twitching in anger, pointed at him and snapped, "Say that again. You've been good to me? Ha, that's hilarious. In your eyes, I'm nothing more than a damn dog." In front of his subordinates, Zhang Chengji shouted back, "Do you even have a conscience? Without me, would you have had the money to make the down payment on your house?" Hearing this, Yang Dao lost his temper. He stormed forward, kicking and waving his arms in frustration, speaking roughly as he approached Zhang Chengji. "I managed to make a down payment, but how much money have you made buying of houses left and right?" Zhang Chengji, fuming with helpless rage, glared at Yang Dao's outrageous behavior. Yang Dao wasn't done yet. He kept going. "Enough with the nonsense. Give me the key and the address to your storage right now." Pinned to the floor, Zhang Chengji still refused to break. He clenched his teeth in fury, unwilling to speak. But Yang Dao wasn't finished. With a sly grin, he moved closer to Zhang Chengji's wife and child. He looked down at them, his voice soft but menacing. "Still so stubborn, huh? Yang Dao then moved toward Cheng Ji's wife, grabbing her by the head with one hand. She winced in pain and cried out, "Ah, that hurts." The little boy, terrified, watched as his mother was attacked, tears welling up in his eyes. Though small, the boy was incredibly brave. He gathered all his strength and lunged forward to attack Yang Dao, tears streaming down his face, his mouth wide open, shouting with defiance, "I'll kill you." Yang Dao didn't pay much attention to the boy, but suddenly, the kid bit him hard on the left arm. Yang Dao screamed in pain. "Ah, you little trash, how dare you bite me?" With a simple flick of his hand, Yang Dao slapped the boy's face, sending him flying backward. He shouted angrily, "Get lost, you little dog." The boy's mother panicked when she saw her son being hit, clearly worried for him. Cheng Ji's blood was boiling with anger. He clenched his fists, his body tensing up, and yelled, "Tan it, if you got the guts. Come at me. Let my wife and child go." Meanwhile, over by the other side, a big muscular man was holding the boy down on the ground while the boy weakly struggled to break free. Yang Dao, standing with his arms crossed, arrogantly added, "Don't worry, as long as you cooperate, your wife and kid will be safe." Cheng Ji was a fierce man who wasn't afraid of anyone, but he loved his family deeply. His eyes burned with rage as he glared at Yang Dao. Yang Dao smirked and continued, "Now take us to your onion storage shed." Scene change, 30 minutes later. There were 4 men, including Yang Dao, who was in charge, leaving 2 underlings, and Jiang Xiao, who was showing them the way to the warehouse door. The door slowly opened, and Jiang Ji stood behind, clearly upset. Yang Dao stepped inside first and saw several crates scattered around, already opened. He turned to Jiang Ji and asked, "Is this all that's left?" Jiang Ji reluctantly answered, "Didn't your big client come looking for this stuff? It's all been sold out. Even the expired goods are almost gone." Yang Dao stroked his chin thoughtfully and murmured, "Jiang Xiao Yong, huh?" Huff. Then with a slight glance, he smiled and said to Jiang Ji, "If we could get our hands on the supplies from Jiang Xiao Yong's factory, we'd be set for life." Jiang Ji, sensing Yang Dao was about to make a rash decision, quickly warned him, "I suggest you stay away from that guy. I happen to see him with a lot of hot merchandise while making deliveries. He's no easy target." Jiang Ji furrowed his brows, sharing his suspicions. That kid probably already knows about the apocalypse coming. Yang Dao immediately continues, standing with his arms crossed, arrogantly casting a glance at Jiang Ji as he said a few cryptic words. "By the way, those are the things you're going to have to worry about soon." At this point, Jiang Ji felt like Yang Dao was planning something. He appeared worried, stammering as he asked, "What do you mean? What are you trying to say?" Times have changed. Now the strong are the ones who win. Yang Dao, relying on his strength, threatened Jiang Ji. He frowned and gave an order. "Take Jiang Xiao Yong's supplies and exchange them for the safety of your wife and kids." This deal is fair, don't you think? Times change and people change. In the past, Yang Dao was treated like a dog by Jiang Ji, but now the roles had reversed. Jiang Ji felt furious inside, but he gritted his teeth, holding back his anger for the sake of his family. The scene shifted back to Jiang Xiao Yong's base. In the medical room, everyone had gathered around Chen Song's bed. They were all stunned to see their friends slowly changing, and even Jiang Xiao Yong couldn't hide the concern on his face. Chen Song was tightly bound by the neck, but still struggled desperately. He tensed his body and screamed, the transformation growing stronger and stronger. Chen Song seemed to turn into a zombie, twitching uncontrollably and letting out guttural growls from his open mouth. The 3 guys of the mechanic team watched in pain as one of their own changed. Jiang Dai seemed to be the most heartbroken. He was probably the one suffering the most because it was Chen Song who had taken a fatal blow for him. The chubby guy, Xu, stood in a corner crying uncontrollably while Yiming remained silent. Yiming, the most ruthless of them all, frowned as if Chen Song were a burden. He growled, his words cold, "Kill him." Since joining Jiang Zi's group at the base, Jiang Xiao Yong had always suspected Yiming wasn't a good guy. With what he was seeing now, he shot Yiming a wary, questioning look. Unable to accept what Yiming said, Zhang Zi snapped, turning to him with anger. "What did you just say?" Yiming, the selfish one, crossed his arms, lowered his head, and avoided making eye contact. His eyes were sharp as he responded. "He's already dead. If we don't kill him as soon as possible, if he breaks free, he'll kill all of us." Su, the chubby guy, couldn't hold back anymore, furious at Yiming's lack of humanity. He shouted back, "He's our brother. You're not even going to try to save him before you give up on him?" Jiang Zai stood off to the side, silent and grim, unable to say anything. But the truth is, this epidemic is beyond saving. Jiang Xiao Yong stood firm in front of Shen Song, who was struggling desperately on the bed, and told the fat man the harsh truth. Jiang Xiao Yong said, "He's right. Once the disease sets in, recovery is almost impossible." The fat man, Shu, helplessly called out, "Xiao Yong." Without saying another word, Jiang Xiao Yong pulled a dagger from his pocket, handed it to Yang Ming, and said, "Take it." Yang Ming, startled by Jiang Xiao Yong's rigid posture, instinctively recoiled. He stammered, "What? What do you mean?" Jiang Xiao Yong's cold expression locked onto Yang Ming's face. Without a hint of emotion, he spoke again, "End it, end him." The dagger in front of Yang Ming seemed to weigh heavily. His words were ruthless, but when it came time to act, his hand trembled. Seeing the hesitation in Yang Ming, Jiang Xiao Yong moved in closer, almost whispering in his ear, "Didn't you always want a weapon?" He then raised the dagger again and placed it right in front of Yang Ming, continuing, "Take it now and set him free." These words from Xiao Yang caused Yang Ming to hesitate and falter. After a moment of internal struggle, almost as if on instinct, Zhang Zai's hand reached out and grabbed the dagger from Jiang Xiao Yang. He yanked it sharply, catching Jiang Xiao Yang off guard. This unexpected move took everyone by surprise, especially Yang Ming. Jiang Zi's face darkened. He held the dagger tightly, pausing for a moment. He was shaking, but his eyes were resolute. Summoning all his courage, he looked down at the dagger and said, "Let me do it."